subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Release hot water. Well, I haven't had a hot bath like this for a long time. It's so comfortable. Could it be that Leon actually cares about me? Her red lips raised a smile. So he is still an arrogant little brother. After all, he is only 17 or 18 years old. It looks like you're ready. That's just right. I've also prepared enough inhibitors here. An hour and a half later, Natasha and Leon met in the living room. At this time, the huge sun disk had dropped to the sea level. The living room of Stark's mansion was orange, and the shadows of all the furniture were stretched very long. Natasha was still wearing the black combat uniform. However, after she took a bath and washed and dried the combat suit with a smart cleaning machine, Leon was finally able to face her image. Natasha's figure is not tall, but she is at her peak. She is exquisite, curvy, and full of feminine charm. However, the most attractive thing is her temperament and her amber eyes. Every look in those eyes seems to hide 1,000 words and express thousands of emotions. Leon was thinking as he looked at her. No wonder Natasha always goes on missions without covering her face. Her eyes are really so recognizable, even if the whole body is covered tightly. But anyone who saw her knew it was her when they saw those eyes. We're ready. So what's our plan? Why do you sound like you're going to attack the Red House right away? Natasha looked at Leon. And why are you wearing a windbreaker? Could it be that your steel armor is hidden inside? Wait a minute, am I right? As Tony Stark's younger brother, it's not surprising that Leon would have a steel suit called Natasha. You are wearing battle armor. Are you going to take me to overthrow the Red House now? Natasha asked a series of questions. She was a little excited and hesitant at the same time. In the evaluation system of Red House, the most valuable thing about steel armor is actually the technology on it. As for the armor itself, at most it only has the combat power of a flying formation. What the Red House is most indispensable for is flight formations. Should we make a plan first? Natasha wanted to persuade Leon to calm down. Leon shook his head and put the box containing the inhibitor on the ground. The plan? The plan is to find the Red House and kill all the members of the organization. He held the collar of his windbreaker with both hands. But you guessed part of it right just now. I do intend to take you directly to the Red House. It's just that I'm not going in steel armor. After saying that, Leon pulled his hands, pulled open the collar, and threw the windbreaker on the sofa. Not wearing steel armor? It's not that I don't believe you, Leon. Maybe you don't know much about the Red House. I think we can WTF. Natasha hesitated and wanted to persuade her again. As a result, the next moment, she saw Leon pulling open his collar to reveal the S-shaped logo on his chest, and she suddenly cursed. You are Superman. Natasha was surprised and happy. It felt like a big cake suddenly fell from the sky and covered her face with cream. Are you really Superman? She was unsure about asking again, but her eyes were already full of energy, as beautiful as crystal. Certainly. Leon spread his hands, and Natasha immediately stepped forward to hold his chest muscles and touched every hard muscle. My God, it feels like an ancient Greek sculpture. She couldn't help but exclaim, no wonder you are so strong. No wonder your chest muscles are so beautiful. So you are Superman. Natasha felt no pressure at all now. She was suddenly very happy, like a little girl entering Disneyland for the first time. Leon was the big, soft Mickey doll in her hands. This is Superman. As the top agent of the Red Room, how can Natasha not know about this internet celebrity who has become globally famous in recent days? Even the superpowers have to worry about his power, and it's not easy to deal with the little Red House. At this moment, Natasha felt that she was right to come and invade the Stark mansion today. Ahem, just stop touching her. Are you ready? Let's go when we are ready. Leon interrupted Natasha's intrusive movements with a slight cough. Natasha reluctantly took back her hand and nodded solemnly. Let's go. At this time, the orange sunshine in the evening shines in from the floor-to-ceiling windows. The sun fell on Leon. Extend his shadow to the farthest wall in the room. Natasha stood in the shadow and Leon in her eyes seemed to be covered with a golden shimmer. Chapter 42, Red House. The high wind blew Natasha's red hair, but it didn't make her feel cold. She clasped Leon's palm tightly and looked at the fish-like lights below. "It's amazing, you just took me flying." She reached out to touch the clouds surrounding the two of them, and the mist passed between her fingers. In the Stark mansion, after Leon made sure Natasha was ready, he grabbed her hand and jumped into the sky and flew into the clouds. The kind of acceleration that breaks through the speed of sound in 1 second and breaks the sound barrier. Even with Natasha's calmness, she couldn't help but be frightened and screamed again and again. In the past 24 years, she has experienced the most arduous training, flown the fastest plane, pretended to be the most luxurious noble, and can be said to have seen most of the scenery in the world. But this was her first time to experience supersonic flight without protection. This place is at least 1,000 meters above the ground. Why can I still breathe normally, speak normally, and not be injured by the high-speed wind? She looked around. Everything was novel. Because I released the biological force field. Leon did not explain in detail. He looked up at the sky and said, "The height here is too low. It will easily affect the environment when the speed increases. We have to fly higher." "How high did it fly?" Natasha was surprised. "You'll know later." Leon took Natasha and accelerated again, rushing into the sky. "Oh!" Natasha quickly adapted. She even let out a loud shout when she passed through the clouds and met the strong wind, just like riding a roller coaster in an amusement park. The two of them ascended to the stratosphere. At this time, the moonlight has emerged. Below the two of them were layers of flat clouds. The moonlight reflects and dances on the surface of the clouds, adding a bluish-white color to the bottom of the dark stratosphere. Natasha looked down at the clouds under the moon. The boundless blue-white sea of clouds leads all the way to the sky, with no end and no reference to find a direction. She suddenly remembered. In the past, when she was flying a fighter jet in the stratosphere, she could also use satellite positioning to determine the direction and position. But flying with the body has no navigation. "Leon, do you know where you're going to fly?" Natasha turned and asked Leon loudly. Leon was stunned for a moment and looked at her strangely. "Of course I know. Why? Do you want to show me the way and tell me where the Red House is?" Natasha looked at Leon, silent for a few seconds, and found a question again. "If I say I don't know the location of the Red House, can you find it? You were trained there, controlled, and then handed over the task, but you didn't know where it was?" Leon's eyes became even weirder. Natasha looked innocent. As an intelligence agency left over from the 1990s, the Red Room cannot be known to the world. What it can rely on to maintain its operation is the girls who have been controlled and raised since childhood, to ensure privacy and security. Every time we return from a mission, we are sedated. So I really don't know where it is. But maybe someone knows. Natasha fell into memories. "I once had an adoptive father who was a second-generation Red Guardian, similar to the Soviet Union's own Captain America. He must know something. Let's go find him." "No need." Leon interrupted Natasha. "For things like reuniting with your adoptive parents, it's better to wait until you are free to do it on your own. Otherwise, if I were an outsider in there, how could you cry and talk to them about your innermost feelings?" It was not difficult for him to find the Red House, so there was no need to look for directions. Besides, Natasha's adoptive father, Alexei, is a funny person in the movie, in addition to providing a family home for Natasha and her sister Yelena. This adoptive father has no second role. He knew nothing about the situation in the Red House. Then how do you plan to find a Red House? Use your artificial intelligence butler to help, the one named Jarvis? Natasha asked. "No, I use my eyes and ears to find it." Leon's sight traveled halfway around the world and had already locked onto the Red House. Natasha was briefly confused and then opened her eyes wide. "Super hearing and supervision? You even have these two abilities? Didn't you guess that my abilities would be the same as Superman's when you saw me wearing a Superman uniform?" Leon asked. "Many people would guess this, but it's so incredible that no one wants to believe it." Natasha looked at Leon carefully again. "So you really are like Superman. Could it be that you are Kryptonian?" Or are you a fan of Superman who gave yourself such power through experiments? She even analyzed. The previous generation of Stark participated in the research of the super soldier serum. So it seems reasonable for the current generation of Stark to develop the Superman serum. Your reasonable range is the difference between the sky and the ground. Lion complained. Then how did you become Superman? Natasha's eyes were full of curiosity. There is nothing abnormal about your blood test records in the information. You will have a chance to know in the future. Leon smiled mysteriously. Suddenly his ears twitched and his eyes focused. Hold on tight. I can already hear your boss getting angry in the red room because he can't contact you. We have to speed up. Are you going to send me back before he gets angry? Natasha pursed her lips and snickered. He will definitely thank you. That's perfect. I'm already looking forward to his expression now. Lion suddenly accelerated, and the huge air pressure tore the sky apart, pushing away the sea of clouds. Natasha felt all this with surprise. Under the cover of the biological force field, the wind pressure that was enough to cut through steel blew on her face, but became as warm as the spring breeze. She felt like she was wearing a VR device and experiencing the flight of an intercontinental missile. Vision and touch are completely separated. God, this is amazing, she sighed again. The speed of the two quickly exceeded Mach 50, and they were crossing an altitude of more than 10 kilometers every second. There are only clouds and thin air in the stratosphere, without any reference. But Natasha soon discovered that the North Star in the starry sky was constantly approaching her head. We are going to the North Pole? The red house is in the Arctic Circle, she suddenly said. The closer you get to the North Pole, the closer the North Star will be directly overhead. To be precise, it's over the Arctic Ocean. We're almost there. Leon took Natasha and began to slow down and dive. About to arrive. Hearing this, Natasha felt nervous as she looked at the rapidly approaching clouds. She has never seen the whole red house in all these years, and this building will always be mysterious in her heart. It was like a high wall cutting off her world, representing death and indifference. But now she is finally going to see it, with the magic weapon descended from the sky. Leon is her biggest reliance. She knew that in the face of Superman's power, the Red Room was unable to resist. And today was destined to be the day that her past life came to an end. But the more she understood this, the more nervous she became. What was on her mind was not the thrill of revenge by destroying the Red House. In her heart, it was actually just a mission, something she had to do, and she was willing to die for it. But now that this mission is about to be completed, it seems that her life will have no other meaning except the heavy blood debt. At this moment, Natasha was like a puppy about to be sent out of a pet shop. She no longer has to be locked in a cage all day long, looking at the travelers coming and going with hope in her eyes. She will be free, but she will also face a world she has never seen before. From now on, she can feel and touch the afternoon sun and the greenery of summer. But her eyes, which had not seen light for a long time, could not see the daytime, and her muddy hands did not dare to touch the green grass. Chapter 43, like entering a deserted place, it's there. We're here. Leon's voice pulled Natasha out of her thoughts. Her vision shifted, and countless clouds and fog were passing by the two of them. Dark clouds pile up in layers at night, wrapping everything around. Natasha looked around and saw black clouds coming towards her. Leon's speed was too fast, but the movement was too small, so small that it seemed to blend into the clouds. But soon, the clouds and fog suddenly became thinner. Natasha had a premonition in her heart and looked at it intently. First, a steel runway hundreds of meters long tore through the sea of clouds. Then, the huge thing connected to the runway came out of the clouds. The dark clouds were suddenly lit up. It was a towering fortress in the air. An aircraft carrier shaped like a tower, with 3 floors for landing strips for fighter planes on each floor, and a total of 12 runways. The light of the fortress penetrated most of the surrounding clouds. It is hiding here like a pearl forgotten by the world. So this is the Red House, it's here. Natasha stared blankly, her eyes reflecting the bright spots of the fortress. Leon couldn't help but stop and look at it. It's really spectacular, but its anti-gravity system looks like just a few large fans. Where did this combination of originality and futurity come from? The designer is really smart. And this kind of air unit that doesn't have an energy defense system at first glance is just a living target, isn't it? He complained again. I didn't even forget to mention my brother, but Tony should like this thing. It looks very steely and has a flashy beauty. Tony likes this style the best. Natasha's brewing emotions were suddenly interrupted by this string of complaints. She looked at Leon speechlessly. You really know your brother. Of course, so I have to change my strategy. Leon climbed higher and took an entire fortress. This fortress cannot be destroyed. As long as it is renovated, it can be used as Tony's 40th birthday present. Wow, you all give such expensive things as birthday gifts. Natasha felt as if there was something stuck in her chest that she couldn't express. While using his clairvoyant eyes to note the location of everyone in the fortress, Leon said, It's not always like this, but he gave me a spaceship on my 18th birthday, so it couldn't be too bad of a return gift. Natasha couldn't help but tilt her upper body back. At this moment, it seemed as if countless knives were piled up and hit her in the face. Then you brothers are quite modern. She said her thoughts dryly. Other rich second generations are still giving away luxury cars and yachts. Fortunately for these brothers, the Sky Fortress and spaceship have been sent up. They're going to fly out of the Earth and into space. Okay, that's it. Leon took a few seconds to write down everyone's location. He fell silently with Natasha, landing as lightly as raindrops on the top runway. Take these and follow me. Leon handed the box containing the inhibitor to Natasha. I will knock everyone out. If you follow up, you can use inhibitors if you think they are suitable. If they're not suitable, you can kill them with a knife. Any questions? Natasha shook her head. No, she knows that she is just a pendant, and it is enough to be able to play support and earn some money. Okay, I'll wait for you in the central control room. Leon flew up, and the neon lights on the runway illuminated half of his body red. He flew higher and higher, quickly attracting attention. A shrill siren sounded inside the fort. Soldiers patrolling the deck quickly gathered and prepared to fire. Natasha looked around, looking for suitable opportunities, intending to help Leon relieve the pressure. But before she could take action, Leon, who was filled with infrared light spots from a gun, took the lead and made a move. Natasha felt her eyes blurred, and the scene she saw suddenly seemed to have several more lines surrounding the fortress. She squeezed her eyes shut. When I opened it again, those lines disappeared. Leon is still where he is, but the infrared light spots on his body have all been extinguished. I'll go in first. Hurry up. Don't keep me waiting too long. Leon waved at her, and then pierced the inside of the fortress like a sharp arrow. Natasha was still a little stunned when suddenly she heard the sound of bodies falling to the ground one after another. Her eyes widened, and she followed the sound and saw that the deck in front of the entrance to the fortress was filled with unconscious combatants. Oh God, it turns out that the line just now is Leon's extremely fast figure. In the blink of an eye, he actually knocked down dozens of people and threw them all in front of her. Is this Superman? It's simply incredible. Natasha couldn't hide her shock, but she still acted quickly. Since the battle does not require her participation at all, then what she has to do is actually very simple. Just put inhibitors on all the widows you know and don't know. As for the other soldiers, she shot them all in the forehead. Natasha knew it. In the deformed intelligence agency called the Red Room, there are only two types of people, the controller and the controlled. These people who are not widows do not need to be screened. They all stand in a dominant position to bully and maintain stability. None of them are good people. After Natasha injected all the widows with inhibitors, she rushed into the fortress in the direction of Leon. Leon's hand was not gentle. The widows were expected to be comatose for a long time. She could not wait here. To Natasha, the interior of the Red House fortress was completely different from the spectacular exterior scene. She felt as if she was at home inside, and she was extremely familiar with every place. The only difference was probably that along the way, people she met at the doorways of rooms and on the passage decks were unconscious on the ground. These people had calm expressions, no scars on their bodies, and they seemed to have fallen into a peaceful sleep when they fell to the ground. Natasha could completely imagine how Leon felt like he was in a deserted place when he broke into this fortress. Without any hesitation, she used her left hand to hit the target and her right hand to hit the inhibitor and quickly chased towards the command room. But too many people were knocked unconscious. Even though she moved quickly, it took almost 10 minutes to finish the injection and rush to the central command room. Before she opened the door, she heard a familiar voice inside. "I apologize to you, noble Superman. Please forgive me for overstepping my bounds. I swear that I never knew about your relationship with Mr. Tony Stark." It was Dreykov's voice. "Forget about begging for mercy. I listened to you talk for a few minutes about how widows control the world and create peace. But now you're telling me this." Leon said, "Well, what do you want me to say? I can say it. Why don't we talk about Gorbachev's embarrassing things?" "Okay, what do you want to say?" "I'll send you to tell God. You already know about my relationship with Tony, and you still think you can leave alive?" There was silence in the room for a while. The voice that started out suddenly broke out into a sharp laugh. Superman, you have been fooled. Why do you think I keep stalling? The pheromones emitted from my body will control the people around me, making them unable to attack me. Now that you have inhaled a large amount of pheromones, you can try attacking me again." When Natasha pushed the door open, what he saw was his old boss, General Dreykov, with neatly combed hair, black-rimmed glasses, and a squat body in a suit lying on the table. Facing Leon, who was standing on the other side of the table, his eyes widened and his mouth squinted, screaming in mockery. Chapter 44, Impossible to Be Together. I came at the wrong time, doesn't it seem? She pointed to the door to the two people who were looking at her at the same time. "Natasha, you're the one who brought Superman. You damn BCH. Snap." When Dreykov saw Natasha, he became furious and cursed. But just in the middle of his words, he was slapped on the back of the head by Leon, and his whole head hit the table, and his brain spurted out. This guy talks so much that it's really unbearable, but he also looks like a beast in clothes, which makes people want to slap him. Leon reached out and wiped the splattered blood on Dreykov's clothes. He tilted his head towards Natasha. "You don't mind if I kill him, do you?" Natasha shrugged nonchalantly. "I've wanted to do that a long time ago. But how did you do it?" "It's the pheromones he just mentioned." She walked towards Leon. "That kind of pheromone can make people unable to attack him. We have all experienced it. Why are you not affected?" Leon grabbed Dreykov by the collar and threw him to the ground. His eyes shot out heat rays, instantly burning the mastermind behind the scenes to ashes. "The abnormal pheromone can't exist in my body for even a second. So how can it affect me?" Leon patted the non-existent dust on his hands. "This guy will have his own whims. Unless it is mental or magical control. Otherwise, do you want to control the Kryptonians who have been basking in the sun for more than half a year? This level is still far from enough." Natasha looked at her former boss, who was turning into ashes on the ground, and opened her mouth slightly. "Heat ray, another magical new ability. I'm almost used to being shocked by the new things you show. Treasure boy, how are you going to scare me next time?" She laughed silently. "But before that, you can tell me how you want me to repay you. I will agree to any conditions." "Natasha, do you know that your current tone is like a 30-year-old working woman who goes to the bar after get off work at night to find a handsome male model to relieve her fatigue? There's a huge screen in the room. On the desk opposite the screen, there's a control panel embedded in it." Leon walked to the table and tried to operate on the panel. "If you want to repay me, let the widows come and work for me first. But the first step is to lift the control that widows around the world are experiencing." "I'm happy to oblige." Natasha came to Leon's side and watched his movements. "Then let me go first to see how the widows in the aircraft carrier are doing. I'll leave it to you to crack the system and find lists of widows from all over the world, okay? It's very simple." After Leon finished speaking, a red interface suddenly popped up on the screen, prompting that palm print recognition was required to unlock. Palm print recognition? Leon tried several times, but couldn't crack it. "It seemed like I was a little impulsive just now. Dreykov should wait until he dies." He turned to take out his mobile phone. "But I still have Jarvis. He can handle this system." Leon connected the mobile phone and the control panel with a data cable. and soon Jarvis's voice appeared on the loudspeaker in the room. Master Lion, Mr. Stark asked me to ask you if you will go home tonight. Jarvis's first sentence was explosive. A black line drooped on Leon's face. If you don't reply, tell him not to mess around while I'm not at home, or I'll ask Pepper to urge him to go to work tomorrow. Okay, I'll pass your words on to Mr. Stark. Jarvis's voice paused and then said, he asked me to tell you the same thing. If you don't come home at night, remember to take safety measures and be careful not to be deceived by bad people. Leon slapped himself in the face. Let him take care of himself first. He's a childish old man who still thinks that I'm a child all day long. Please, I was more mature than him when I was 3 years old. Cough. Natasha on the side couldn't help laughing. Leon cast a death gaze, and Natasha tucked her red hair behind her ears and averted her eyes. Next time I introduce that childish Tony to you, you will definitely find him very boring. Leon curled his lips. He turned around and prepared for Jarvis to start cracking the Red Room system. But Natasha suddenly poked the side of his face with her fingertips, and then he was gone. Looking after him, Natasha turned her back to him and retreated to the door, waving her hand. To be honest, I just need to know a naive Stark. After Natasha finished speaking, she ran and disappeared around the corner outside the door. Leon was stunned for a moment. Another childish ghost? At this time, Jarvis, who had been quiet for a while, suddenly said, "Congratulations, Master Lion." "Congratulations to me?" Leon was puzzled. "Congratulations on finding your 4th girlfriend." Jarvis said, "Your first 3 girlfriends only dated for half a month before they broke up with you because they got checks written by Mr. Stark. I hope you have a lasting relationship this time." Leon's memories were brought back. He closed his eyes in anger. That's not because Tony always thinks that I will be deceived for love and money, and he says that emotions should stay in the body. Every time I just got a girlfriend and the girls spent a few nights with me, he would wave the check. Fark, he is killing my youth. But it turns out that those girls are really here for your money. Jarvis supported Tony this time. Mr. Stark just did what Miss Pepper would normally do for him. Leon curled his lips. Every time it's a check of $1 million US, whoever comes in exchange for it will score. So are you going to stop Mr. Stark from paying your breakup costs this time? No, because Natasha and I can never be together. Leon glanced at the corner, where Natasha was still hiding and eavesdropping. But your relationship seems to be going well. Jarvis's code couldn't understand complex emotions. Leon shook his head. This is different, he explained. I knew from the beginning that all Natasha needed was someone to belong to. She has lived in a tragic environment since she was a child. Her adoptive parents are undercover agents acting as husband and wife. The so-called family relationship is just a castle in the air. And when the disguised family was broken up, she was sent to the Red House for training and transformation. The painful training and torturous career as a killer left her with no sense of identity. She is like a duckweed floating in the sea with no fixed place. What this duckweed lacks most is a tidal flat for her to stop and take root. It's better to have other duckweeds on the beach. Everyone may be swaying, but it's still lively. The tidal flat is actually a place of belonging. It is not a person, but a family with brothers and sisters. So Natasha doesn't need a lover. She needs a place that can give her a sense of belonging. We won't be together. Leon, who knew all of Natasha's past and future, knew it very well. Of course, Natasha will have people she likes and good friends, but she will keep an appropriate distance from everyone. That feeling of alienation was her disguise to protect herself. It is also what she relies on to maintain relationships. Boom! Suddenly, there was the sound of an object falling to the ground outside the house, followed by the sound of messy footsteps getting further away. Apparently, Natasha had her thoughts revealed and left in a panic. Master Lion, Miss Natasha was still outside just now. Jarvis reminded. I know. Leon nodded. You know her very well. Do you like her, but don't dare to get close to her? My Jarvis. Only Tony would do the kind of thing you said. I only admire Natasha. So you don't plan to be with her? My relationship with her can be simpler. For example, we can talk about our concerns together in the dead of night. According to Mr. Stark's behavioral logic analysis, all the thoughts you talk about at night will turn into a noise-making exercise. That's the logic. Chapter 45 Incorporation in progress. Let's stop chatting. Jarvis, now invade this host and unlock the system blockade. Leon ordered. Okay, Master Lion. Jarvis's program successfully invaded the Red Room host. The red password box on the big screen was suddenly covered by a waterfall of blue codes. Characters of 0 and 1 jump rapidly on screen. In the host of the Red Room, Jarvis can play an unprecedentedly powerful role. It even expressed emotion. Master Lion, here I feel as free as in the sea. The performance of their host system is very superior. Then you can enjoy it more in the future. I plan to give this fortress to Tony, and you can stay here permanently. Leon stared at the screen, waiting for the results of Jarvis's operation. More than 10 minutes later, suddenly, a light flashed on the screen, and the system's blockade was successfully lifted. Folders pop up one by one, from low-security files to high-privilege confidential documents, arranged in order of confidentiality level. Leon showed a satisfied smile. Jarvis, search the key data in this system and retrieve information about all Red House Widow agents. Leon issued a new order. Jarvis responded quickly and began scanning and analyzing large amounts of data in the system. After a while, it made a beep. Master Lion, we have found all the corresponding information for you. Jarvis reported. A file opened on the big screen. The densely packed profile photos suddenly filled the screen, and they were still sliding down to show more portraits. There are at least 300 widows, whose locations are marked on the world map. The screen flashed, and a world map popped up with avatars marked around the world. From London and Paris in Northern Europe to Cape Town and Johannesburg in South Africa. From Jerusalem, the Holy Land of Faith, to free and open Chicago and New York. More than 300 widow agents are scattered in various nodes around the world. Some have high positions, some are good at dancing, and some are hidden among vendors as hidden sharp knives. By controlling these widow agents, the Red House controls the world. Jarvis, send Natasha a copy of the list and details, then transfer $100 million from my name to her and ask her to establish a new organizational center in New York. Leon's eyes became focused. Master Lion, you may be able to inform Miss Natasha directly about the relevant arrangements. They are coming to find you. Jarvis said. They? Natasha came here with the widows. Leon looked towards the door. His ears twitched slightly, and he heard a burst of footsteps. It was a silent step that used special techniques to exert force, and the widows had turned this technique into a habit. Wow, what did I hear just now? A man wants to spend $100 million on you. Natasha, how did you do it? Did you take off your clothes? Please teach me how to get people to give me so much money. We will need money very much in the future, right? The first person to enter was Natasha, followed by a girl who kept talking to her in Russian. The girl would never have imagined that not only did Leon know Russian, but he could also hear her whisper in a low voice. Natasha rolled her eyes, ignored the girl behind her, and walked straight to Leon. Behind her were more than 40 widow agents. Under their golden, black, and red hair, their blue, dark, and even rolling purple eyes were all looking at Leon in uniform. They still had confused and sad expressions on their faces, but their eyes overflowed with gratitude and admiration for Leon. It can be seen that Natasha should have told them the general situation. I brought everyone here. Natasha turned sideways to give up her position, her expression as normal, as if she had not heard Leon's analysis of her before. They're all willing to join your organization or company and serve you. Leon took a few more glances at Natasha and the girl behind her. I can see that you encountered a lot of difficulties in the process of persuasion. Natasha sighed. This is my sister, Yelena. She pulled the girl behind her. She attacked me when she woke up. She is just an impulsive child. Both Natasha and Yelena's faces were stained. One had a bruised forehead, and the other had a torn corner of the mouth. That's not an impulse. It's a punishment for you, a traitor. It was your defection that caused us to be subject to stricter control. Yelena has short blonde hair, looks neat and tidy, and has a childish face. She seems to be younger than Leon. She first refuted Natasha's slander, and then stood up to Leon. Thank you for saving us, Mr. Superman. We are willing to obey your orders. Leon smiled when he heard this. and was about to say a few words to win people's hearts. As a result, Yelena immediately turned sideways quietly and said to Natasha in Russian, "Oh my God, his chest muscles are so beautiful. They feel bigger than mine. Have you ever touched them? It's really hard for such a handsome man to be seduced by you." Wasted. Natasha and Leon's faces both darkened. Don't wait for Natasha to clean up her rebellious little sister. Leon took the first step and gave a recruitment introduction in Russian to all the widow agents present. "Everyone, I won't introduce myself much. Superman and Stark, you must be familiar with these two identities. First of all, I want to explain that although I helped Natasha destroy the Red House, part of my purpose was to gain your power. But this is not a mandatory requirement. After all, you have suffered enough. If you don't want to join, you can leave later, whether you want to return to an ordinary life or use your skills to work hard. And those who are willing to join, stay. I will let Natasha set up a company or organization in New York, and then you can all use your talents. That's all I have to say. Those who don't want to join can leave after helping to clean up the corpses on the fortress. I will ask Natasha to escort you. By the way, I will also ask Jarvis to send you your family of origin information." Leon waved to the big screen. "Jarvis." "Okay, Master, all messages have been sent." Jarvis was very efficient, and the communication equipment of all widow agents on the scene received the message. The widow agents looked at each other, but did not immediately check their background. For these girls who were sent to red houses since childhood, family is a very distant topic. This supposedly warm word was so unfamiliar to their ears, not much different from the bakery they encounter by chance on the roadside. It can even be said that they are extremely unfamiliar and fearful of a future in which they can make their own decisions. In more than 10 years of working in the Red House, they have never really made a choice on their own, because every detail of their lives has been completely planned by the Red House, even the way of death. But now, facing the two choices provided by Leon, they were flattered, and at the same time, they were also faintly excited in their hearts. The girls did not communicate. After a brief silence, they all stepped forward and gathered around Leon. "We are willing to obey your orders, Your Excellency." The jagged words neatly expressed the same idea. Leon's tall figure stood out like stars in the black uniforms. He looked around, his eyes passing by a tense little face, smiling. "Then you're welcome to join." He opened his hand. "In the future, we will definitely accomplish many great deeds that will be admired by the world. You will never regret today's decision. Now, your first task is to clean up the Sky Fortress and dispose of all the corpses. After that, I will let Natasha go with you all over the world to relieve the control of other widow agents." He held out his hand, and all the widows laid their hands on it, each girl's eyes shining. Chapter 46, Great Organization. The girls left one after another, and Leon turned back to look at Natasha and her sister, who was planning to take the opportunity to slip away. From the moment Leon spoke the first Russian sentence, Yelena's face became embarrassed. She thought Superman could only speak English and seemed to know at least some Chinese. She didn't expect that Superman could even speak Russian. "I thought that after waking up, I would usher in a new life." Unexpectedly, he ushered in his first social death. Yelena just wanted to roll on the ground and disappear here. But when she tried to muddle through, she was stopped by Leon. "Natasha, Yelena, you stay here first." Natasha stopped without any doubt. Yelena was stiff all over, pointing to herself with a smile. "Do I want to stay too?" "I think so." Leon nodded with a smile. He puffed out his chest deliberately. "You've been discussing my muscles just now, so I thought I should give you a chance." Yelena took a step back unprepared, and after hesitation, she actually stretched out her right hand. "So I can touch and see?" Natasha's face darkened, and she slapped Yelena on the back of the head. "What were you thinking about when you woke up?" Yelena held her head and felt aggrieved. "The boss said he could give me a chance." She took the position of Lion's younger brother very naturally. Leon shook his head speechlessly. How could a girl of Yelena's age have so many incredible ideas? He said to the screen, "Jarvis, you send the information about the widow agents scattered around the world to the two of them." "Okay." Natasha walked behind Leon, looked at the portraits marked around the world on the screen, and vaguely realized why Leon stopped them. "So you want the two of us to lead the other widows?" Natasha asked. That's right, Leon nodded. Yelena, as the two Black Widows, you two are the most suitable to be their leaders. Uh, Black Widow? But I'm not. Yelena rubbed the back of her head in confusion. You're not. Leon was stunned for a moment. In the original world line, Yelena surpassed all the records left by Natasha and became a new generation of Black Widow. Unexpectedly, she is not yet. Natasha pursed her lips and smiled. She was almost successful, but those records were refreshed by me a year ago. Leon suddenly realized that this was an extension of the butterfly effect. Thank you very much. No wonder my training volume was doubled at that time. Do you know that it almost killed me? Yelena tugged at her hair frantically. As she spoke, she rushed forward and tried to hug Natasha, but was quickly suppressed. Leon, don't pay attention to her. Tell me, what do you want us to do? Natasha pressed on Yelena and said, after the things here are over, you will lead others to rescue the widows marked on the map. After injecting the inhibitor, give them the same choice. Bring those who are willing to join to see me, and those who are unwilling to join will have their files destroyed. Okay, I will complete the task as soon as possible. Natasha nodded solemnly, with gratitude in her eyes. Her biggest wish before was to allow other widow agents to have their own lives. And now, because of Lion, this wish is about to come true. Natasha felt that she owed this man more and more, and she almost couldn't pay it back. Leon put his hands on the table. But this is just preliminary preparation work. After you complete it, I will have more important tasks for you. Boss, what is the mission? Do we want to save the world? Or do we want to fight against the evil dark forces? Even though Yelena was suppressed under Natasha, she still shouted excitedly. Shut up. Natasha twisted her sister's arm hard, and Yelena was defeated with a cry. Boss, save me, boss. Natasha is bullying me because of her age. She began to cry. Leon's eyelids twitched. Why didn't he remember that Yelena was so out of the ordinary in the movie? How old is she? He couldn't help asking Natasha. This must not be the use of child labor. Born in 1988, she is 20 years old. Natasha remembers her sister's birthday very clearly. Bigger than me? Leon was dumbfounded and ignored Yelena. This girl must have been trapped in a cage for a long time, and her mind became active after she was suddenly freed. Just ignore her. Boss, don't turn around. Look at me. Natasha is 4 years older than me. Yelena was sanctioned by Natasha again. With tears in her eyes, she pitifully tried to impress her boss with her eyes. However, Leon only left her with a ruthless back. Natasha shook her head helplessly and asked, Can't you tell us about that mission in advance? There is nothing to keep secret. The task is actually very simple. Just let the widow agents around the world spread some evidence through their own channels. Leon's face was reflected blue by the dim light of the screen. Some evidence that an evil organization that should have perished in history still exists and has taken root in the world. What organization? Natasha's pupils dilated. Hydra. Leon spat out a few words. Hydra? That organization that was eliminated by Captain America still exists? Oh my God, do we really want to save the world? So powerful. Yelena spoke up again. Natasha also stared at Leon, waiting for him to tell more details. A smile appeared on Leon's face. Have you ever heard of an organization called S.H.I.E.L.D.? Next few minutes, Leon introduced the resurrection process of Hydra to the two in detail. So the hearts of the two sisters felt extremely shocked in just a few minutes. They thought that the Red Room was already the most hidden and darkest organization in the world. Unexpectedly, one mountain is higher than the other. Hydra can actually take over S.H.I.E.L.D. This S.H.I.E.L.D. is the biggest cancer in the world. Natasha, who was supposed to be working for S.H.I.E.L.D. at this time, said this. Yes, you're right. Leon could hardly suppress the smile on his face, looking at Natasha as Nick Fury's henchman in the movie. Now he looks like he deserves to be guillotined. There was a subtle feeling of pleasure in his heart. Ahem, he's still wearing a Superman uniform. He shouldn't have such thoughts. It's a sin. He has to wait until he gets home and takes off his suit before laughing. Soon Natasha escorted Yelena out of the command room. The expressions of the two sisters were completely different. Natasha's face was solemn, but her fighting spirit was high. She thinks that her hands are stained with blood, and what she wants to do most is to save the world and make up for her own sins. Even if she sacrifices herself for it, she feels willing to do so. In other words, after experiencing so many things, she had a self-destructive tendency, but she just wanted to do more to make up for her mistakes before she died. But Yelena was different. She was so excited that she almost jumped up. He was still chirping all the way out, saying that he was going to be a great hero. But no matter how the two reacted, they all felt more and more in their hearts that the organization that Lion was about to establish would be a great organization dedicated to the darkness and serving the light. However, if Leon could hear their inner thoughts, he would definitely not be able to help but slap the table and laugh out loud. After all, his original intention in establishing the organization was just to make the Widow agents work for him better. Chapter 47, Party and Beach. Master Lion. Maybe this Miss Natasha is really good. She doesn't seem to give in to money, and she also has a righteous heart. After everyone was gone, Jarvis spoke up again. Leon said perfunctorily, "Yes, he is good as a subordinate. He is loyal, indifferent to fame and fortune, and not afraid of sacrifice. Where can I find such a good subordinate?" "Master, your thinking angle is really surprising. It is always beyond my calculations. That's necessary." Leon swiped a few times on the electronic screen. "By the way, you can search in the Red Room host to see if there are any documents related to Hydra. Please wait. There are 8 undercover documents and 316 transaction documents, all related to Hydra." Jarvis unfolded the folder on the big screen. It added, "However, the Red House did not know that the targets of these undercover agents and transactions were Hydra. The above results were retrieved based on the Hydra information you uploaded before." Leon crossed his arms and said, 8 undercover agents. This Red House also has great magical powers. Even Hydra can enter undercover. The content of the document shows that there was also a Widow agent who was recommended to join S.H.I.E.L.D. after going undercover into a scientific research institution controlled by Hydra, Jarvis said. In terms of identity, this Widow agent is also a Hydra, although she does not know it. There is actually a double agent. Why do I suddenly feel that Dreykov is also a genius? Leon clapped his hands. He thought for a while. Let Natasha find a way to contact this Widow first and inject her with an inhibitor. Then package all Hydra-related files and send them back to Tony's host. Also, remember to keep the parts of the file related to the Red House. You can use them later to make a fuss. Okay, Master Lion. Jarvis responded. A file transfer screen immediately appeared on the big screen. The file package has been transferred back to Mr. Stark's host. Well done. Leon patted the table with satisfaction, like patting Jarvis on the shoulder. He moved his shoulders and said, "This is the end of tonight's work, and the next step is happy, sunbathing time. And you, Jarvis, you are also off work. From now on, you can run whatever you want on the host of this fortress." "Thank you, Master Lion," Jarvis said. "But I want to remind you that there are still 4 hours until the next sun exposure time in your plan. In order to predict the upper limit of strength increase, Leon has a fixed time to bask in the sun every time this month. If he wants to bask in the sunshine as he pleases, he still has to wait for more than half a month." "Okay, I forgot." Leon touched his chin. "Then I'll help the girls clean up the bodies." He floated up, flew out of the command room, found the busy Widow agents, and helped them move the bodies together. This makes work that should have been busy for several hours come to an end in less than 10 minutes. So Leon simply called everyone and held a party together in the officers' mess on the lower level of the fortress. When the party started, there were only simple fast food on the table, and the protagonist was a large amount of whiskey and champagne that Lion moved from the wine cellar. The girls sat neatly at the dining table, each with a dinner plate and a wine glass in hand. At first, they sat stiffly at a loss, not even able to adapt to this kind of eating activity without any time limit. But soon, bottles after bottles of high-end champagne were sprayed into the goblet. Girls from all over the world are gradually letting loose. They communicated quietly at first. Then he gradually began to boldly ask Lion various questions. In the end, the girls cheered, clinked glasses, drank, and gathered around Leon to sing the nursery rhymes from their childhood. Various cheerful children's songs were sung in English, German, Chinese, and Portuguese. Nearly 100 arms of various colors took turns lingering on Leon, only to be pushed away by him helplessly. Halfway through the party, most of the girls were just getting excited. Their specially trained and even modified bodies are destined to be difficult to get drunk. But this does not affect their actions becoming bolder and their words becoming more explicit. Leon began to feel that what he was hosting was no longer a party, so he wisely closed the door and left the officer's mess, leaving behind a group of singing and dancing girls with rosy faces. I can't have dinner with so many girls next time. Leon casually grabbed a towel next to him and wiped the marks on his face. Especially a girl who can't stop drinking and only gets drunker and drunker. Suddenly a female voice added softly, Leon turned around in surprise. Natasha stood leaning against the wall, and it was she who handed over the towel. Why don't you continue to have a few drinks with them? Your sister has started to take off her coat and dance the Go Pack dance. Lion joked. At this time, Natasha reached out and took the towel again, took a step forward, and wiped away the marks on Leon's neck and behind his ears. If I were inside, wouldn't I be able to wait for you? Her beautiful amber eyes winked mischievously. Leon looked at the beautiful face so close. It seems that I've just come out of the tiger's den and entered the wolf's den again. Have to admit, as long as you don't use supervision to observe, Natasha is a top beauty. What do you think? Natasha stood on tiptoes and hooked Leon's neck. She breathed moist breath into Leon's ear. I don't stink now, bad guy. That's hard to say. Leon lowered his voice. Maybe you have to let me smell it carefully to know. Natasha turned her head and pressed her cheek against Leon's, sniffing lightly with the tip of his nose. But I think you smell particularly good. Do you want to go to my room tonight to see why you smell so strange? Are you serious? Natasha's fingertips slid down from the S-shaped logo on Leon's chest. It depends on whether you are willing to be the tidal flat that makes me stop and take root. Extremely happy. The two figures overlapped, slowly moved into the elevator, returned to Natasha's room, and slammed the door. Beep, beep. Jarvis gave an emergency reminder, and the sound kept ringing. What's wrong? Leon half opened his sleepy eyes, stretched out his hand to fumble, and followed the sound to find his mobile phone in the Superman uniform on the ground. Ding! The phone screen lit up, and a wavy curve representing Jarvis appeared on the screen. Master Lion, I'm sorry to disturb your rest, but maybe Mr. Stark needs your help. Tony, hearing that something happened to his brother, Leon suddenly woke up and sat up. What's up with him? Mr. Stark was on the highest deck of the fortress and was stopped by the agents. There is an emergency. Deck? Agent? Why is he here? Leon felt confused. Let him calm down and don't conflict with the widows. We are all our own. I will go find him right away. Leon pulled down the white arm that was hanging on his body and slapped the bulge in the quilt beside him. I'm still pretending to be asleep when I wake up. I'm going to check on Tony. Follow me quickly. Natasha opened her eyes, but her eyes were not as sharp as before. Instead, they were like a deep green pool in summer, with water so rich that it seemed like it was about to flow out. Then when is our next time? She sat up holding the quilt. Her hair hanging down her shoulders was messy, revealing half of her white and rosy collarbone. Leon quickly put on his uniform. When you want to come to me. What do you think our relationship is now? He also asked. Natasha showed a charming smile. You know me so well. You should know. My only and most special friend. You are very greedy, but I agreed. Natasha hugged her knees across the quilt. Who makes you my boss? But you can't deduct my salary in the future. Are you worried about your salary? You couldn't take it with both hands when I gave it to you last night, right? Leon raised his eyebrows. After hearing this, Natasha covered her head with the quilt and said no more. But after Leon left, she got out of the quilt again. In an empty room, her eyes flickered as she stretched out her hand to make a virtual grip, raised her eyebrows with unclear meaning, and silently uttered a wow from her lips. Chapter 48, The Law of True Fragrance, is late, but arrives. The nights over the Arctic Ocean are short in summer. It had only been more than 3 hours since the party, but the sea of clouds hiding in the fortress was already illuminated by the sun. When Leon turned on his supervision, he flew in the sunlight coming in through the windows. He expected to see Tony's two-handed cluster cannon on the deck, confronting a group of gun-wielding widow agents. The result was a shocking scene. "What's going on?" Leon muttered, speeding up. On deck, Tony was blocked by 7 or 8 widow agents. About 30 other girls were looking at Tony and whispering from a few meters away. Their faces even smelled of alcohol, and from time to time, they stretched out their hands to make signs, as if they were comparing something. But the strangest thing was Tony. He was wearing Mark III armor and was neither flying in the air nor using any weapon systems. Instead, cross your hands in front of your lower abdomen, take one step to the right with your left leg, and one step to the left with your right leg. That action was even more enchanting than the models on Victoria's Secret that Leon had seen 2 years ago. Tony isn't in danger, so why is it an emergency? Leon looked strange. And what is he doing? Catwalking? No, that's stupid. Tony was still there arguing with the widow agents. His faceplate popped open, his expression inexplicably embarrassed. "I told you that your new boss and I are brothers. Do you understand? I'm his brother. If you don't let me in, I will transfer you to the company to work as Pepper's secretary." The girl who was talking to him had a very relaxed posture, with the gun on her waist and her hands behind her back. She looked a little troubled. "Mr. Stark, I can't let you in without Superman's permission. Since you have asked the artificial intelligence to notify him, there will be a reply soon. Just wait. But what you just said, if Superman agrees, I'm willing to work for the Stark Group." She even started chatting. "Your group's salary is very high. I haven't received a salary yet. I heard that the coastal scenery in Los Angeles is also good. Are you serious? Now talk to me about salary, huh?" Tony stared. "Nicole Parson, if you let me in, I will give you a monthly salary of $100,000. Sorry, no. And my name is not Nicole Parson. My name is Mary. That's the name of a female agent in the Bourne Supremacy. Tony gave you a nickname, Mary." Leon, who was observing the situation from his side, finally appeared. He landed and patted the widow agent on the shoulder. "Well done. I didn't treat you to a drink for free just now. Now, let our Uncle Tony come in." After hearing this, Mary and the widows finally got out of the way, with smiles on their faces. Then you can't run away in the middle of the next party. Drinking and talking at the party. Let the girls get acquainted with Leon. Their behavior was much more casual, but there was no less respect in their eyes, but more trust. "Next time I will get you all drunk before leaving." Leon smiled, turned his head, and opened his arms towards Tony. "Tony, how did you find this place? Look at your face. It looks like... Please, why are you coming out just now? Get out of the way, I want to go in." Tony pushed Leon away. His face turned red, as if he had been holding his breath in the water for 3 minutes. "Jarvis, show me the way," and then turn the armor's propulsion power to the maximum. All the propellers of the Mark III sprayed fire at the same time, and the shells were fired into the interior of the fortress. Natasha, who had just come out, almost ran into her head-on. She jumped aside and cursed fake. Leon froze on the spot before finishing the second half of the sentence, like a drowned frog. The girls looked at each other when they heard this metaphor and expressed their agreement. "That's your brother Tony Stark? What happened to him?" Natasha patted the dust on her hands and walked over. Leon shrugged. "I don't know, Jarvis. What happened to him? Oops, did he go into the toilet?" I turned on my clairvoyance and took a casual glance. He saw Tony taking off his armor in the toilet, and after some fiddling, he breathed a sigh of relief. Leon's expression became strange. "Jarvis, how long has Tony been on the road?" "For 3 hours. Mr. Stark has been very busy today and has not had time to solve his physical problems," Jarvis said. "Huh." Leon laughed out loud. Turns out he couldn't hold it in any longer. I asked him why his feet kept twisting around. The girls present were also stunned. No wonder Tony Stark was so strange just now. There was laughter on the deck for a while, and everyone had a deep understanding of the Stark brothers. "I'm going to see what Tony wants to do. You guys keep busy." Leon flew up and returned to the inside of the fortress. "Tony, do you still think the fluid circulation system is disgusting?" The first time Tony walked out of the toilet, he saw Leon leaning against the wall and questioning him. Tony's expression suddenly froze. After freezing for a few seconds, he turned his head as if nothing had happened Sometimes I have to admit that the important thing is the function rather than the appearance. So you're not sick now. Leon put his index finger between his eyebrows. I remember someone seemed to say a few days ago, okay, I admit that you're more foresight. The armor does need a liquid circulation system. Tony's expression changed, and he quickly changed his words. He grabbed Leon and stopped the topic. I'll install additional functions when I get back. Now, why don't you take me around your fairy tale castle first? Get Tony's submission. Lion reaps the full emotional value. He stopped when he was ready and followed Tony and said, okay, let's go this way first. By the way, why did you find me here? Jarvis told me that a girl kidnapped my brother while I was away. I was worried that he would be deceived and in nowhere, so I came here overnight to protect him. Tony spread his hands. Are you moved after hearing this story? However, this younger brother actually acted aggressively when I made a fool of myself. Isn't it too much? Leon couldn't help laughing. Obviously, you were shot in the knee by your own boomerang. Who said you don't need a fluid circulation system to kill you? Also, you can deceive Pepper with your nonsense. Why did you come here? Tony shrugged. Jarvis said that a little princess built a huge fairy tale castle and gave it to me. I came here to see how it goes. Jarvis told you? Well, I didn't ask for it to be kept secret. Leon stepped forward to lead the way. Come this way. I'll show you the functions of this fortress. Also, this is your 40th birthday gift. It's still early. The two walked from the command room on the upper level of the fortress to the engine at the bottom. Tony was analyzing the whole thing. Full-body stealth coating, radar-absorbing materials, and optical stealth. They are really rich and worthy of being a legacy of superpower. Look here. The power system of this fighter is very good, but it is still 20 years behind my armor. Chapter 49, 1 person and half. What is that? An anti-gravity device made of propellers. Did I suddenly return to the age of discovery? Why does a space carrier use propellers? We need to remodel this fort. Tony was completely in the state. His eyes were moving rapidly, and he pointed at one module after another and expressed his ideas for transformation. Replace the energy system with an arc generator, change the anti-gravity propulsion device to cluster energy, and strengthen the stealth system. Also on the deck, I can build armor storage warehouses so that real-time delivery of armor can be achieved. Wait, Tony, wait a minute. Seeing that Tony was taking the lead, Leon hurriedly interrupted. What? Do you have any other suggestions for improvement? Tony now attaches great importance to Leon's scientific research talents. No, I want to say that you seem to have made a mistake. What's up? This fortress is not yours yet. What? Jarvis clearly said you gave it to me. I said it was a 40th birthday present. Are you 40 now? You were still a few months away from 39. Tony was shocked. 40 years old? Are you going to leave this fortress idle for more than a year? Of course not. I am still useful. The widow agents still need to use this fortress, and so you're going to give me a third-hand birthday present? Tony became eloquent and said, Leon, what makes you so cruel that you're not even willing to give a second-hand gift to my brother? Has he treated you poorly for so many years? It can be seen that he really likes this flying fortress. While visiting, though, he kept nagging about finding faults. He also said that he could only reluctantly accept this gift, but his eyes were always shining. It's like a little boy getting his long-awaited Transformers. Of course I'm not. That's it, Tony interrupted again. We will have half of this fortress before our 40th birthday, and then you will give me a gift of 2.5 cents. Leon hesitated, but, Leon, you can't transform the entire fortress by yourself, right? Tony said again. Those big eyes almost stared into Leon's face. Leon was stunned by Tony's longing eyes. He raised his hands in surrender. Okay, half for you and half for me for the time being. Normally, I would have the widows stationed here for task handover and personnel transfer. As long as you don't affect them, you can do whatever you want. Tony beamed with joy. Of course, I will never affect those girls' work. But why do you always call them widows? Does the Red House specifically look for widows to train? Leon shook his head. They were selected by the Gene Sequencing Project since they were children and then sent here. He briefly introduced the past of the Red House. Tony's face turned dull after hearing this. Training and transforming little girls. First Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D., then the Red Room. Under the calm waters of this world, I don't know how many such evil organizations are hiding in the dark. Take me to meet the girls. Also, since you plan to establish a new organization, maybe you should change their names. You can't let a bunch of girls around you calling themselves widows all day long, right? That would make you look like a heinous medieval lord. Tony has always had a warm heart. Leon nodded. They will naturally have new names in the future. When the two returned to the deck, the girls are still here, basking in the sun, looking at the sea of clouds and chatting. The content of the chat had no preface and follow-up, and they were chatting about anything they could think of. For them who had just gained freedom, just sitting like this, even if it lasted all day, was extremely comfortable. After seeing Leon, the girls all stood up and gathered around Leon. After introduction and communication, Tony talked about his plan to renovate the fortress and take the initiative. To the widow agent responsible for guarding the fort, he will pay a monthly salary of $100,000 until the other party leaves. However, during the exchange, Tony found that the girls looked at him very strangely. After questioning him several times in Lion, he learned that it was because everyone in the fortress knew that he was holding back his urine in his armor. Therefore, Leon and Tony quickly said goodbye to the girls and left the Sky Fortress together. Tony left partly out of embarrassment, partly because he still has to go back and prepare for today's press conference. If he misses the press conference, Pepper will definitely be angry for a while. It's time for Lion to bask in the sun. He wants to fly directly back to the space capsule to sleep. By the way, he rebuilt the spaceship's hatch last week and repaired it. When I first woke up, my heart was racing and I just wanted to destroy something to test my strength. As a result, the hatch suffered an unexpected disaster. In the end, of course, he had to fix it himself. On the deck of the fortress, the widows looked at the two people flying away with envy. It's great, I can fly freely. Yelena said, I don't know if I will have the opportunity to ask the boss to build me a battle armor in the future. That would be really cool if you think about it. Flames spurt out from the soles of your feet. Whoosh. Then they fly away. Natasha said nothing and kept watching Leon disappear into the clouds. Yelena noticed her sister's abnormality and bumped her with her shoulder. Hey, stop looking. Everyone has left. You and the boss were alone in the past few hours. You haven't seen enough. You don't have to worry about it. Natasha pushed her sister away. I don't care. Yelena approached again, dissatisfied. She suddenly thought of something. Yes, you should have just... How do you feel? The other girls also became interested when they heard this topic, and they all joined in. Yes, Superman is so strong. How do you feel? Let's talk about it. Is it as strong as a hydraulic press for piling? Or is it as fast as an electric drill? We can't even eat it. If you don't tell us, you will envy us to death. The widows turned into curious babies one by one, and they just had to write the word curiosity into their eyes. Natasha's expression became coy, and she stretched out her hand to hold it in the air. That's right, it feels a bit like flying in the sky, and it never stopped, and it's very strong. Shit, Natasha, you deserve to die. My Superman, I really heard what I wanted to hear. The curious babies had a mental breakdown. The scene was filled with howls of ghosts and wolves. 10 o'clock in the morning in Los Angeles. Stark Industrial Park. The press conference was held on time. Pepper read a long speech on stage that is a plan for the rollout of new energy supply. But this is just a preliminary explanation. Real cooperation must be carried out in conjunction with major sovereign countries. The reporters in the audience kept flashing lights, and everyone was quiet until Pepper finished speaking. They knew they were witnessing something big that was about to change the world. As long as they perform well enough, maybe they will be included in the textbooks in the future because of a wonderful report issued today. However, when Pepper finished speaking, the question and answer session that reporters had been longing for did not come. On the stage, Pepper stood aside to give up his position, but Tony Stark walked up. Ahem, don't worry, everyone. I'm just going to say a few words. He put his hands on the podium. The crowd fell silent after a brief commotion, and hundreds of pairs of eyes were waiting for Tony's next speech. Chapter 50: Fury jumps off the cliff. Oh, it's finally about to start. Jarvis remembered the video. At the outermost edge of the crowd, Leon, who had returned from space, was holding a bucket of popcorn, looking like he was watching a good show. Although the time is wrong, it can still be regarded as watching a major Marvel event live. Mr. Lion, you seem to be looking forward to what Mr. Tony will say next. Suddenly a voice came from the side. Leon frowned slightly, glanced at the speaker, and stopped as he was about to walk away. Who are you? An acquaintance. Leon immediately recognized the middle-aged man next to him in a suit and leather shoes, with slightly bald forehead and a kind face. Isn't this Coulson, a die-hard Captain America fan? I'm Phil Coulson, from the Homeland Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency. Coulson handed over a business card with a smile. What a convoluted name. What do you want from me? Leon took the business card. We are a department independent of the FBI and CIA. We would like to talk to you about some of the recent events in the Middle East. Leon glanced at the business card and stuffed it back into Coulson's hand. You don't need to ask me. What Tony is going to say now is what happened there. You just need to wait. Coulson looked at Tony on the stage unexpectedly, feeling that something big was going to happen today. Thank you. He nodded politely to Leon, then walked out, took out the communication device, and started to contact his superiors. Well, recently, I believe you all should be paying attention to what is happening in the Middle East. Tony flipped through a few pages of his speech on the stage and threw it aside. There are some barbarians there who are killing civilians wantonly with weapons they don't know where they got. Of course, it was Obadiah who was secretly delivering weapons to them in the past. Now that he is gone, those people still have weapons. Just as Tony was about to continue speaking, a reporter raised his hand and asked, Are you talking about the Ten Rings gang that kidnapped you and were then eliminated by Superman? Well, it's almost the same, but the details are a little different. Tony choked. Sure enough, no matter what happens, these reporters can label Superman. Tony chose to abandon the large-scale foreshadowing and go directly to the key points. You must also know that most of the Ten Rings gang is in the Middle East. Actually, it was in Afghanistan. There's a man in steel armor who was there recently and wiped out this group of gangsters. Many people began to pay attention to him and thought he was a hero. I want to say that he has many shortcomings and made many mistakes when he was young, but you still think he is a hero. This is actually... Another reporter raised his hand. Are you talking about the Iron Man who recently imitated Superman? Do you know him very well? Tony's words were all stuck in his throat. He looked at the reporter for a long time, then suddenly said, That's Iron Man, not Iron Boy. And I am Iron Man. There was silence. Everyone looked at Tony and felt that he was enlivening the atmosphere. There were even a few people who laughed dryly and joined in, showing that they were indeed amused. The only one in the crowd who was really smiling, even smiling happily, was Leon. This made Tony's face darken. He pursed his lips angrily, took a step back, shook his hands, and revealed 2 bracelets. Jarvis, boom! The next moment, an oval metal flight capsule rushed in from outside and passed over the reporter's head. Amid exclamations and ducking, the flight capsule disintegrated and descended on Tony. I am Iron Man. The armor was put on. The face armor was closed, and the crisp sound of iron scales snapping together sounded continuously. Tony once again announced his identity calmly, but firmly. This time, everyone was looking at him in shock. The gold and red armor stood in the center of the podium, like an industrial treasure, full of brilliance. Everyone was trembling in their hearts. Then the crowd surged, hundreds of arms raised high, rushing to the podium, noisily raising their own questions. Evening. Honestly, you might as well just appear on stage wearing the armor. That way you won't be questioned by reporters one after another. Leon pushed open the door of the mansion and said to Tony behind him. After the press conference, Pepper was stunned and dragged him and Tony to sit in the company for a whole day. The pile of documents seems to be endless. The superbrain seems to have made a sound of protest. Lion decided, wait until Natasha has rescued all the widow agents. Let her be the president of the internet company. This job is a bit tiring. But it seems that he trusts Natasha, presumably being able to handle multiple transactions worth tens of billions of dollars every day will give Natasha a great sense of accomplishment. As for establishing the organization, leave it to Yelena. Little girls can grow up quickly if they exercise more. The more Leon thought about it, the more he felt that this decision was feasible. Another win-win-win situation. It's impossible to get into this class anyway. He went to work before time traveling and went to work after time traveling. Didn't he travel through time in vain? But that's all for later. Now, he just wants to have a good dinner. Use delicious food to heal the fatigue of work. However, as soon as he walked through the door, Leon stopped. Tony's questioning voice chased behind him. Do you really think so? I saw it clearly at that time, and you laughed the loudest in the audience. Why are you standing still? Tony poked his head out from behind Leon. In front of the huge floor-to-ceiling windows, a figure with a black trench coat hanging down to his ankles, his back to the two of them, was looking aloofly at the sea outside the window. That pitch-black head pretends to be mysterious. Who else could it be if he wasn't Nick Fury? Jarvis, Tony called. Welcome home, Mr. Stark and Master Lion. Jarvis responded immediately. It looks like it's local electromagnetic shielding. The technology is pretty good, Tony praised, and he saw that part of Jarvis' monitoring area was shielded. He looked at Leon. What do you think we should do? Leon snapped his fingers. Jarvis, use the armor to blast out the man standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. Okay, Master. The sound of a mechanical combination immediately came from downstairs. Wait a minute. Don't get excited. Nick Fury, who was dressed as aloof, panicked and turned around hurriedly. I'm a director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick. Happy crab. Before he finished speaking, Jarvis had already controlled Super Mark I to go upstairs. The blue-red armor raised his hands, and the cluster cannon was ready to go. FK. I'll do it again. We need to talk. Nick Fury saw that the artificial intelligence had no intention of stopping, so he crashed through the floor-to-ceiling window and jumped off the cliff. Boom. After he jumped off the cliff, the cluster cannon also passed by. Well done, Tony praised, walked to the window, and watched a parachute slowly unfold onto the cliff. That guy really has a lot of backup tactics, and it's no different from what you described. He sighed with emotion. Leon also came over. Jarvis, it seems we have to upgrade you, otherwise anyone can break in. Master, if I use the Sky Fortress as host, I shouldn't be blocked by him. Hey, you know how to make requests, so I'll upgrade your console. Tony looked at Leon at this time. Speaking of which, if your Black Widow men had been kicked out by you when they came yesterday, we wouldn't have been able to find the Red House. Why didn't you take action then? He asked. Because there are some things I want to be sure of. Leon blew on the floor-to-ceiling window, blowing all the debris off the cliff. I plan to ask her for some information I want to know. Naturally, I won't drive her away directly. What information? Secret. You kid, and I still have such a secret? I think you are just greedy for other people's bodies. Tony's voice was high. Of course, there's also this factor in it. I just made the same mistakes that men make. Leon walked towards his room. You make sense. Tony put himself in his shoes and thought about it. He couldn't refuse a beautiful woman who came to his door. Chapter 51. Half a month passed quickly. Nick Fury said he would come again, but in the end he never came again. I heard from Tony that he packaged the Hydra information and sent it to Ludan's mailbox. It is estimated that the other party is now facing his own shield, which is riddled with holes and scolds FK 100 times a day. But during this time, Natasha had already led the girls to relieve the control of more than 200 Widow agents. Most of these Widows were willing to join the organization that Lion had not yet established. There are less than double digits of Widow agents, either because they were exhausted physically or mentally, or because they wanted to pursue their own future. They chose to quit. Lion also destroyed the files of these people as promised. However, maybe within a few years, some of them will regret the decisions they made today. Tony, because of Pepper's request, also began to return to the company to help. After all, the spread of new energy cannot be achieved without him. Lion's biggest gain in the past half-month is the growth in strength and the end of the upper limit prediction experiment. 2 days ago, Lion went home after basking in the sun and ended the thrust test. Tony looked at him again as if he were a monster. A huge force of 890,000 tons. In half a month, your strength has almost doubled. Leon nodded calmly. I can feel that the growth rate of strength is accelerating, a bit like growing in a geometric sequence. But in the past 2 days, I have noticed that this growing gap has begun to narrow. Perhaps this means that I am approaching the peak of my growth. So what I would rather get is the upper limit prediction result. Today is the last day, right? It's time to get the results. Give me 5 minutes. Tony walked to the computer and started calculating quickly on the screen. As he said, 5 minutes later, a prediction chart full of points and lines was printed. Okay, done. Leon pulled out the drawings and read them carefully. Tony acted as the narrator. Those dots record the power of your jump after each end of the sun, and the lines are the increase. According to the model we built, your upper limit of strength will be around 2 million tons. Well, it's 2 million tons with a single arm. Tony looked at Leon's face and continued after finding nothing unusual. And 1 million tons is your peak period. Before the peak period, the strength will increase faster and faster like a snowball. After that, your strength growth rate will gradually slow down until it reaches the upper limit. After Tony finished speaking, he carefully observed Leon. He knew that his younger brother had always wanted to pursue power, and he might not be in a good mood when he suddenly heard that he had an upper limit. However, Leon was always calm. He even felt strange. What's that expression on your face? It's like you were afraid that I would cry the next second, so you took out tissues in advance to comfort me. Don't you feel sad about the fact that you have an upper limit? Tony asked, pointing to the prediction chart. Why should I be sad? This is expected. After knowing the result, I have a direction to work hard. Lion said, that's just the way it is. I know that about 2 million tons per arm is my upper limit. Before reaching the upper limit, he can continue to bask in the sun while looking for other ways to become stronger. First of all, you can consider going to Kamatage to study. You can also go to Daluo village in Kunlun to learn Qigong. There are too many crooked ways to become stronger in Kamatage. For example, using the contract signed with the devil to become stronger. Sign the weak ones first, and then they will devour the opponent. Then sign the stronger ones, and climb all the way to the path of the devil. This is a feasible road that has already been trodden by a certain Doctor Strange. Kunlun can seek the power of the dragon. That is multi-level power, although the probability of getting it is very small. Even after exploring these powers in this world, he can also use the ability to travel to other worlds to find ways to become stronger. In the past, Leon had always been a little cautious, feeling that it was best not to step out of the current world before he became strong enough. However, now he should be barely qualified to set foot in other worlds. Tony said at this time, speaking of which, I watched a Superman cartoon a few days ago. The Superman inside suddenly absorbed too much power, reaching a huge force of 200 billion tons, and his body began to collapse naturally. I think that for most ordinary Kryptonians, 2 million tons may already be an unattainable limit. Leon thought for a while and agreed. Maybe it's true. After all, there's an upper limit to race. So if you want to break through this upper limit, do you have to stop being a Kryptonian? He complained secretly in his mind. 2 days later, end of a sumptuous dinner. Tony continued to retreat into the laboratory to conduct research. Lion flew into space. After the simulation test, he basically felt like he was rooted in the space capsule these days. Except when I'm hungry, I go home for dinner. Even yesterday, Natasha's request for salary was ignored by him. Enter the space capsule again and return to the familiar titanium alloy steel plate. Leon soon fell into sleep comfortably. This night, it should have been spent peacefully like this, but uninvited guests always arrive without warning. Tony Stark didn't know. The wind that announced his identity to the world has now blown into the hidden corner. The moon and stars are sparse, and the sky is filled with floating clouds. Under the night, a group of black-clothed and masked men were hidden in the shadow of the clouds, attacking the Stark mansion like a rat woman coming out of a hole. They were like some kind of ancient knights, with the only eyes they showed being firm and ruthless. It seems that they are here just to rob the rich and give to the poor. But it's like a ninja that has been passed down for thousands of years. Each person's footsteps will be imprinted on the footsteps of the person before him. No one made any sound. Everyone was like a cold sword hidden in a sheath. They walk in a blind spot of all surveillance equipment. Sometimes they jump together, sometimes they crawl like a group of water spiders jumping on the water. The group of water spiders finally lurked on the roof of the Stark mansion, located the location of Tony's room, and landed with a hook lock. Laser cutter, glass suction cup, silent gloves. They were extremely professional in removing the glass from Tony's bedroom. Then, one after another, they slid into the house like swimming fish, without making any sound. The person in the lead looked around the room and shook his head, indicating that Tony Stark was not here. He made a few hand gestures, instructing everyone to rush out together and kill them downstairs, leaving no one alive. Everyone nodded. The leader raised 5 fingers and started counting down one by one. At the same time, in the laboratory, Tony was leaning on the soft chair with his chin propped up in deep thought. On the screen in front of him was Jarvis' defense system. He was so busy during this period that half a month had passed and Jarvis's upgrade had not been completed. Talk about it. During the upgrade, he also deliberately replaced the monitoring equipment, and there were gaps in the original all-round monitoring. However, the upgrade time is very fast, so there will definitely be no problems. However, an arm was stretched out in front of him and waved. I'm still thinking about it, Tony. The enemies are coming. Leon reached out and took off the glasses from Tony's face. He was asleep in space when he heard the sound of glass cutting and the sound of heavy footsteps in his home. The sweet dream was suddenly awakened. As soon as his supervision was turned on and he saw the situation clearly, he hurried back to the laboratory in 5 seconds. The improvement in strength during this period has caused the strength of the biological force field to increase rapidly. Now, even if he flies at speeds above Mach 100, he can still fly through the clouds as silently as a bird. Huh? Tony was startled, his face full of shock, but he stopped after seeing Leon. What enemy? Jarvis didn't even warn. Damn it, it's not that black braised egg again, is it? From Leon, Tony learned the adjective for black braised eggs, which combines both taste and color. No, it's a group of ninjas or martial arts masters. Leon pinched his wrist. I came back to remind you to upgrade Jarvis quickly, and then take action to deal with them. Chapter 52, Death Notice from the Ten Rings Gang. Oh, no. When Tony heard that Leon was about to take action, his heart jumped and he stood up immediately. They are obviously coming for me. If they want to take action, I will do it. After he finished speaking, he waved his hand directly. Jarvis, armor. The flight capsule, standing quietly in the laboratory, suddenly disintegrated and attached. Leon didn't stop Tony. The muscle density of the dozen or so people above is at the level of ordinary people. Even if he might have some mysterious power, he would not be Tony's opponent. After Tony put on the armor, he smashed the glass door and rushed upstairs. You wait for my news below. Tony's voice also rushed all the way down the corridor. Handsome guys with diapers on their heads. Here I come. It can be seen that he has been too busy and depressed during this period, and his true nature is immediately revealed when he puts on the armor. Leon shook his head and stepped upstairs on the broken glass. The uninvited guests obviously did not expect that the target would suddenly rush out from downstairs. As soon as Tony went up, he opened up all fire, and the cluster cannon rotated and bombed. The intruders were killed without any chance of fighting back. Even those who reacted were knocked to the ground by cluster cannons the moment they resisted. Tony's full power output caused the ceiling of the villa to rumble and shake. When Leon walked to the living room, the body was already lying on the floor and the wall was half cracked. Very good. You can call the decoration company again tomorrow. The last man in black was cornered by Tony. It was obvious that these attackers were professional killers. Not one of them screamed when they died. Even if only one person dies now, will he still fight to the end? Leon just thought that the last person would make a last stand. As a result, the man stepped back and took out a simple envelope from his arms. He handed over the envelope and at the same time swung the knife in his hand, cut his own throat, and died on the spot. When his body fell, he even kept handing out the envelope. Well, it seems like he doesn't intend to fight to the death. but chooses to die to prove his ambition. Leon walked to Tony's side. No, he wanted me to read the letter. Click. Tony flipped up his visor, and the armor separated automatically. He took a step forward and was about to pick up the envelope, but Leon got there first. Be careful with the poison on the letter, Tony. Next time you come into contact with something given by the enemy, you'd better wear battle armor. Tony was stunned for a moment. Smear poison on the letter? Who else would do such an insidious thing? Some Eastern martial arts novels like to write this kind of plot. These people are sneaky, and they look like they would do that kind of thing. Leon put the envelope to his nose and smelled it. Okay, it's not poisonous. It seems I'm overthinking it. But why did he hand over this letter before committing suicide? He opened the envelope casually. Maybe some organization wants to win over me? Could it be that it was a membership test? Tony came over to watch together. Leon looked disgusted. Damn, what kind of middle school student's guess is this? Do you think you are the savior? He unfolded the letter. From the outside, it looks like a very ordinary letter, probably made of bamboo paper. People who are accustomed to using this kind of paper are basically from Southeast Asia. Could it be that the other party is the hand? The two of them read the letter line by line. To Mr. Tony Stark, congratulations on passing my test. Killed the members of the Outer 10 Rings gang who went on an assassination mission. Successfully proved that you are worthy of having your head cut off by me. In recent years, you're still the first person to reach this stage. First, introduce yourself. I'm the leader of the 10 Rings gang, Wenwu. The 10 Commandments gang that you wiped out half a month ago was just a poor imitator of mine. I want to thank you for killing these shoddy imposters for me. But I'm sorry to inform you, although they're just imitators, they also represent the prestige of the 10 Rings gang in the world. Now that you have claimed to the outside world that you have wiped out the 10 Commandments gang, then I have to kill you to maintain the reputation of my 10 Rings gang. 1 month later, I will come to your door in person to take your head. Signature. The two of them quickly finished reading silently. Tony frowned. So, the 10 Rings gang is just the tip of the iceberg? No, the 10 Rings gang is actually a hidden organization. He thought of Hydra in the Red Room. Any such organization hidden in the dark corners of the world. What he has learned so far is nothing good. Tony was still speculating on the details of the 10 Rings gang, but Leon next to him exploded. What a civil and military man. Leon's eyes almost immediately glowed red. The letter in his hand shattered without warning. He floated, and the skirt of his clothes did not move in the wind. The red light in his eyes grew stronger and stronger, like a demon crawling out of hell staring at all living beings. He was clearly not wearing a Superman uniform, but at this moment, it seemed as if a bloodstained cape was making a sound behind him. Tony, you can rest first. I'll go kill a few people and then come back. His face was expressionless. It was as if he was just saying that he would eat a piece of bread later. But Sinan's tone can make people's hair stand on end. Tony turned his head in surprise. Before he could see Leon, he suddenly felt like a big mountain was pressing on him and took a few steps back. You mean now? Tony looked at Leon, his heart trembling slightly. Oh, if the Sherwan gang dares to issue a death notice after 1 month, I will prevent them from seeing the sun tomorrow. Lion just floated there. It gives people a sense of oppression like mountains flying in the sky and rivers flowing backward. It seemed as if the whole world would collapse in the next moment like a mirror falling to the ground. This was the first time Tony had seen such an angry Leon. His throat was tight, and he felt flustered for some reason. Leon, calm down. Calm down, Tony said hurriedly. He is looking for me, and it is me who should deal with him. Don't be impulsive. Let's talk about it later. He jumped up and tried to drag Leon down, but Leon didn't move at all, and he fell on Leon instead. He hugged Leon's calf and smiled sarcastically. Listen, Leon, let's not rush to take action yet. Look, it was me, Iron Man, who issued the challenge. I must respond to this challenge. Otherwise, why did I hold that press conference before? Was it just a show off? Leon looked at Tony hanging on his calf speechlessly. The anger in my heart was extinguished a lot because of this funny comparison. Isn't it? He slowly landed, and Tony stood on the ground again. Look, you always misunderstand me so deeply. Tony stepped forward and immediately stepped forward to block Leon's shoulders. I am Iron Man. This is my responsibility, You also know what I wanted to do from the beginning, right? This is an opportunity. He said eloquently, the Ten Rings gang, just like the Ten Rings gang, is not a good thing. They provoked me, and I just wanted to find them. None of these dancers hiding in the dark are good people, so let me investigate and deal with them. Okay? Are you serious? The red light in Leon's eyes gradually extinguished and turned back to black eyes. He looked at Tony strangely. Do you really want to fight with that civil and military man? Don't look at me like that. You've already solved the Red House, but I can't solve the Ten Rings gang. Am I kidding? Tony smiled and spread his hands, feeling relieved in his heart. For some reason, seeing Leon's furious look made him feel tight. This reminded him of himself 17 years ago, holding Leon and squatting in front of his parents' tombstones, crying. That day, the rain in the whole world flowed like a silver waterfall curtain, and he couldn't tell whether it was tears or rain on his face. I couldn't tell whether I was angry, sad, or confused. He cried until his eyes blurred. Suddenly, Leon in his arms was babbling, and he stretched out his hand to wipe away the water stains on his face. Leon, who was still a baby at that time, seemed to have concern in his big black eyes, and his young hands patted his cheek again and again. At that moment, Tony knew that this child was his only remaining relative in the world. He swore that he would never let anything happen to Leon. This little guy must be smiling and active every day. Over the past 17 years, he has fulfilled this vow perfectly. But now Leon has grown up and even turned into Superman, and even started to protect him in turn. While this made Tony very uncomfortable, he also had to admit that he could no longer protect Leon. But when he saw Leon's furious look, his heart still felt tense. That's a vague sense of self-blame. He blames himself for being too weak and can no longer protect his younger brother. Chapter 53 New Elements. Leon didn't know Tony's rich psychological activities. He glanced at the arc reactor on Tony's chest and shook his head. You can't beat him, based on the civil and military performance in the movie. After all, Tony has to be in the late stages to be able to fight. As for Tony, who is still using the palladium arc reactor, sorry, too weak. You haven't even seen me take action and you think I can't beat him? Tony glared. It's like you know him very well. Leon picked up the two bodies on the ground and walked out. I do know something. The Ten Rings Gang is an organization that has been passed down for thousands of years. It is named after the leader's treasure, the Ten Rings. The Ten Rings have amazing power and can give the user a long life and a super strong body. It is said that it also has special energy that can open dimensions. That civil and military man obtained the Ten Rings 1,000 years ago and is still alive today. How can you win against such a person? The Ten Rings in the movie have the same names as the Ten Rings in the comics, but they are two weapons with completely different abilities. The Ten Rings are weapons of the mind energy system that can absorb and store kinetic energy. In the movie, this set of weapons displays different powers in the hands of different people. Related settings were later added to the comics. It is said that the Ten Rings were originally the divine weapons of the Jade Emperor, but were left behind in the human world, as long as it's in the right hands. The upper limit of its power is even close to the level of a single universe, comparable to the infinite gems. As for the origin of the Ten Rings in the movie, Lion has no idea. After all, the strength shown by the two people who had used the Ten Rings throughout the whole process seemed to be difficult even to destroy a city. Compared with the description in the comics, it is almost 10 galaxies away. Of course, even so, the civil and military skills are not what Tony can match now. Are you sure you're not talking about fairy tales? People who have lived for thousands of years, can they still open dimensions? Tony subconsciously questioned, but Leon's expression told him that it was not a joke. Okay, I know that's true. Thank you for your answer, Lion Encyclopedia. Tony also put on the armor and began to carry the bodies with Leon. Let me think about it. An organization with a 1,000-year history and an old man who is a living fossil. It's really unheard of. But this matter still has to be resolved by myself, Leon. If the other party is coming for me, then I will face him. Leon threw the body on the lawn and asked, how do you solve it? Just because of the poisonous arc reactor on the chest. After that, he went back to the house and continued to move the next batch of corpses. Tony followed, Don't say that, let me try. If it doesn't work, you can go up again. With you as a Superman, can I still have an accident? Um, but did you know that palladium can poison people? Tony was a little surprised. Leon silently picked up two more people. I studied chemistry in high school. Thank you. He took 2 steps and suddenly stopped. If you really want to take action, then upgrade your armor first and heal the hole in your chest. Besides, I've always wanted to ask, why are you always carrying the reactor with you even though there's no shrapnel in your chest? Are you trying to be cool with your life? This, ahem, Tony was a little embarrassed. There are some deep reasons for this. What kind of guilty expression do you have? Leon asked suspiciously. Don't tell me you actually forgot that palladium can poison people. Are you kidding? How could I forget such a thing? Tony's face was stern. I'm just testing the impact of palladium on the human body. Yes, that's it. Leon covered his forehead. You guys are hopeless. I thought you had other plans, so I never asked. I didn't expect you to have never considered this issue. A week ago, Tony was holding the arc reactor on his chest, flaunting it everywhere like an Astro Boy, until he came out of the lab last weekend. The big hole in the chest was finally replaced with other fillings. It seems that it was the physical discomfort at that time that reminded him of palladium poisoning. That's all over. Tony threw the two bodies on the ground and changed the subject loudly. Children only always think about the past. We should think about how to improve the armor now. Tony wanted to put his hand on Leon's shoulder, but was dodged. He clapped his hands instead to cover up his embarrassment. Since you said I can't beat that civil and military man, how about you help me develop the armor? In the next month, we brothers will study together, and we will definitely make history. Leon, you don't want me to be bullied by people outside, right? Leon raised his eyebrows. Oh, there is such a good thing. I have been waiting for you to be beaten for a long time. He refused. It is impossible to study together. I have to go to the universe to become stronger. But a few days ago, I used my supervision to check the files left by my father in S.H.I.E.L.D. It was discovered that he had developed a new element suitable for the arc generator a long time ago. The clues are on the design display board in Stark Industrial Park. You can go and take a look. Leon chose to reveal the new elements to Tony in advance. At the same time, he piled all the bodies together, burned them all to ashes with heat rays. He blew out another breath and blew all the dust out of the villa. Dad, Tony on the other side took off his armor. He has developed a new element? Are you kidding me? It's not a joke. That's the last gift he left for you. Leon patted Tony's arm and walked into the house. Afterwards, you can ask Nick Fury for the documents that Dad left behind. Everything he wants to tell you is in them. Leon temporarily gave up the idea of going directly to the Ten Ring Gang headquarters to crush Wenwu's head. Since Tony wants to FK, let him FK. When you really can't beat it, you can take over the baton yourself. After all, strictly speaking, this matter is indeed a personal grudge between the Ten Rings Gang and Tony. Tony stayed there for a while. He probably didn't expect to receive a gift from Howard after so long. After standing there for several minutes, he entered the house and found Leon. So, you agreed, right? I will solve the problem of the Ten Rings Gang by myself. Tony was still thinking about the fight. It's up to you, but I still don't think highly of you. If you lose then, don't call Leon to save me. Leon was preparing to go to space again. You agree? That's great. I knew you would agree. You are worthy of being my brother. Tony cheered. He didn't take Leon's sarcasm to heart at all. Help? What help? Tony Stark. Even if he jumped off the cliff behind his home, he would never call for help again. He said it. No one could change it. Leon saw through Tony's thoughts at a glance and sighed. This Tony is considered useless. Let's come back and exchange for different ones in the multiverse later. Error. Don't be too happy too early. I told you that you will definitely lose. Are you still happy? He used verbal attacks. Will lose? That's not necessarily the case. As long as there are new elements, everything will be different. Tony waved his hand. It's a beautiful thought. Adding new elements to the Mark III is not enough, and the big hole in your chest is also a fatal flaw. Unless you can cure it, but we don't have that kind of medical technology now. Well, it doesn't seem possible. Leon touched his chin and suddenly thought of something. Superb medical technology is not available on Earth, but it is available in the universe. The universe is too far away, and there are still other worlds. Leon suddenly felt a little moved. He just happened to have a plan to travel around the world recently. Because it was his first time traveling, he wanted to find a world with a low upper limit as a try. So, why not just travel to a world where Tony's chest injury can be cured and his strength can be improved without a high upper limit? Leon's eyes flickered, and he suddenly made plans to leave. He had studied the ability to travel through the world before. As long as he thinks of the keyword in his mind, the shuttle ability will feed back the approximate energy value required to travel through the corresponding world. This is like a fool's version of a search engine. After entering a keyword, it will prompt you for the traffic required to search and enter the corresponding web page. When Lion clicks confirm search and pays for traffic, the ability will activate, teleporting him to the target world. But there is a slight problem. This engine cannot recognize the names of movies from previous lives. He can only search the world using keywords such as low upper limit and good medical technology. Chapter 54, Traveling Across the World. Not necessarily? What can you do? Could it be filling it with silicone or something like that? Tony looked disgusted. Don't come up with such a bad idea. I would rather build a new element arc reactor and install it. Of course not. I plan to travel across the world recently, and I will definitely be able to bring you good news by then. Leon said. Time travel. Tony muttered a few words. His eyes suddenly lit up. Are you planning to go to other worlds? God, you must take me with you. I've wanted to go for a long time. He suddenly became extremely excited. That's a different world. Will there be another me or another you there? Is it possible that in that world I will be Superman and you will be Iron Man? The more Tony talked, the more excited he became. He walked a few steps quickly and almost scratched his head. Wait a minute. Let me think about what I need to bring to travel across the world. Steel armor, electronic equipment, US dollars. No, I have to bring gold, and it's starting again. This guy is getting excited again, just minding his own business. Leon stopped Tony helplessly. You misunderstood again. I only planned to go alone without you, without me. Tony was stunned. Yes, no, Leon emphasized. Really? Tony looked in disbelief. This really doesn't happen. Leon affirmed. You just left me like this. Tony's stretched out fingers were trembling. Forget if you give me a third-hand birthday gift, but you won't take me with you when you go on a trip? The corner of Leon's mouth twitched, and Tony's expression now resembled that of a husky abandoned by its owner, confused and shocked. No, because there are uncertainties here. I have to try traveling through it myself first. If the time travel process is stable and you can bring people with you, well, it seems that you can indeed bring people with you. Anyway, if I have the chance to take you through time again in the future, wouldn't I want to go to the DC world? I'll take you with me when the time comes. Lion feels that his ability to travel is very inclusive. As long as he has enough energy, I'm afraid he can pack up the entire Marvel universe and take it away. But this is the first time after all. I have a body of steel and can try and make mistakes, but you can't. Leon gave the reason. After hearing the explanation, Tony opened his mouth to say something else, but in the end he just showed a regretful expression. He knew he was out of luck. After all, Leon was right. You should be more cautious when traveling through time for the first time. Adding him at this time is no different than adding a burden. He spread his hands and said, have you ever thought about what you would do if you just traveled to another world and encountered kryptonite? Well, I went there wearing Super Mark number 1. Leon thought for a while. That's right. You have to wear battle armor. Also, bring 5 arc reactors, just in case. There are also disinfection issues and equivalents. You have to. Tony gave a long list of instructions. He didn't stop until his mouth became dry and he drank some water. Okay, just make these preparations. When you are sure you want to travel, tell me and I will watch from the side. The next day, at dusk, Leon stood among a circle of testing equipment in the underground garage. He was wearing Super Mark 1 and carrying a large travel backpack. The backpack contains 5 arc reactors, 10 pieces of 1 kilogram gold, disinfectant spray, hemostatic spray. This backpack prepared by Tony himself has all kinds of emergency items, although Leon thinks most of them are unnecessary. Are you sure you want to leave now? Tony asked from behind the projection screen. That's right. Leon nodded. But I should be back soon. You know that with my power, anything I do is easy. Tony shook his head. I'm only worried about the kryptonite and the red sun. After going there, if you encounter danger, you must come back immediately. Don't worry. Even if I am restrained and lose my superpowers, I can still live well. Leon nodded his head with his finger. Superman has weaknesses, but the knowledge in his head will not disappear. I'm leaving. He carried his travel bag behind his armor. I hope you have successfully developed new elements when I come back. Tony went to the industrial park this morning and brought back the design display board. Then you have to come back soon, because I can create the core of the new element tonight. Tony smiled proudly. He did some research in the afternoon, and based on Leon's tips, he discovered the secret of the display board. That's a construction diagram of a new element. He only needs to analyze this structural diagram and use a particle collider to synthesize it, and soon he will be able to successfully obtain a new element. Proud as Tony, after figuring everything out, he couldn't help but marvel at his father's wisdom. I hope so. Leon was also happy for his brother. I'm leaving. Take care of yourself and Pepper. Leon closed his eyes after speaking. On the other side, Tony also turned on each instrument and started recording field data. Recording the data of time travel is an opportunity that many scientists dream of, and of course he will not let it go. Start searching the world. Keywords: treatment of severed limbs, improvement of Kryptonian strength, lower upper limit of extraordinary power in the world, no threat, successfully anchoring the world. Calculate the energy required to travel. Travel confirmed. Leon mobilized his ability to travel in his heart and determined each process and value. Soon, a mysterious message appeared in his mind, letting him immediately understand that the search for the different world had been successful. Dozens of options appeared in his consciousness, all of which were worlds that met the requirements. Those worlds are like bubbles, like chaotic black holes, with no information visible. He could only choose one at random. Then a feeling between reality and reality came and enveloped him. In this state, he can vaguely sense the energy he needs to consume to travel through the world he is currently anchored to. About 1% of one's own physical strength. In terms of Leon's human-shaped natural disaster-like strength, this energy is huge. Converted to a specific value, it is equivalent to at least 9 full days of global power generation. Now Leon finally understood why the gift from the original world was Kryptonian blood and time travel. If only Kryptonian blood. If he wants to achieve unlimited improvement in strength, he can only rack his brains to find opportunities in the Marvel world. And if only the ability to travel through time and space. I'm afraid it would cost him countless time and money to even collect the energy needed to travel. But now that these two abilities are combined, everything becomes logical and complementary. Leon felt an inexplicable feeling in his heart. Perhaps with the combination of the two abilities, he can really easily break the upper limit and become the strongest. Didn't waste much time. Leon finally confirmed in his mind that he would start traveling through time. As soon as the thought came out, a majestic suction force appeared in his body out of thin air. It was as if there was a black hole connected to his limbs and bones at this moment, frantically extracting everything that could be extracted. But this suction comes and goes quickly. After absorbing 1% of Leon's physical strength, the suction force will disappear automatically. Instead, a pull came over Lion. Chapter 55, Unknown Gift. Leon had a premonition and only had time to open his eyes and wave to Tony. The next second, he disappeared out of thin air. When he disappeared, the space he was in didn't even have any fluctuations. No wormhole appeared to suck him away. There is no gate of heaven open to guide his way. He is like a painting on a drawing software. After being selected and clicked to cut, he disappears from the picture instantly. Not a trace was left behind. Thank you very much. Tony exclaimed, "This is unscientific." All the instruments on site did not move at all, as if this place had not changed from beginning to end. In Tony's eyes, Lion's disappearance was like a drop of seawater evaporating in the sea, without causing any waves. Tony ran frantically to the position in front of Leon and looked up and down. He felt that his worldview was challenged again. How can it be possible to travel across the world so quietly? This is not scientific at all. But what made him even more uncomfortable was actually another thing. Leon, you kid, you have to come back quickly. As soon as Leon left, Tony felt extremely uncomfortable. Leon felt as if he had entered nothingness. He was pushed by a force and moved in this void. I couldn't open my eyes or speak. I felt like an ant that had accidentally fallen into the river and drifted with the current. But it's not quite right to describe it this way. There was actually no sense of restraint on him. He just couldn't move and kept moving forward. It sounds like he was in a vegetative state in an ambulance and was taken to the hospital. But this feeling didn't last long. At a certain moment, Leon felt like he had passed through a thin film like water. He could even feel the ripples in the film caused by him. Then everything was spinning. There was a real feeling under his feet, and Leon regained control of his body. He opened his eyes, and the power supply of the armor that had been extinguished at some point was also restarted at the same time, and the eyes on the visor shimmered. This is a world at war. The first image that came into view was a monstrous fire climbing up high-rise buildings. All the surrounding buildings had firelight, and the stars gathered together to burn the entire night sky red. Broken glass, collapsed street signs, cars with fronts caved in and doors torn apart after the collision. There was also a helicopter hovering over the building with its searchlights on. This is probably a city at war. Perhaps it had just been shelled. The empty cars jammed together in the middle of the road showed the panic of people fleeing. Jarvis went online at this time. "Master Lion, are you okay?" It seems that for unknown reasons while in the garage, all the circuit systems of the armor stopped running. "I'm fine. We've reached another world now, Jarvis." Leon looked around. "You terminated the operation because you traveled through time and space. Don't worry, try to connect to the network first." Jarvis's mission was to collect information online, and Leon stood there, closed his eyes, and canceled all the brain suppression of superhearing. Suddenly, voices from all over the world came pouring in. The sound of wind, fire, screams, countless sounds swirled around him like a kaleidoscope. At this moment, the sound seems to have a shape, and each timbre represents a picture. He quickly found useful information in these voices. "Weskier, welcome to HCF. You are now our battlefield commander. Marvin, guard the west side gate. Chris, Jill, and Brad are in danger now. I have to go back to find them. Tell King Ada that we must get the G virus." Countless sounds have been reduced to the most valuable few. Leon suddenly opened his eyes. It turns out this is the world of the Resident Evil game version, and I'm in Raccoon City. It seems that the ability to travel can indeed travel to places outside the Marvel worldview. He recalled the plots he had seen in his previous life and made a judgment. The world of Resident Evil poses no threat to me. But it's strange how the retrieval process of time travel ability is carried out. Does this world really meet the requirements? The treatment of amputated limbs can be solved with viruses that are unique to the world. Even if it may turn into a zombie, it will definitely solve the problem. But will this world help me improve my strength? Leon was confused and felt a little ridiculous. The so-called T-virus, G-virus, and bacteria masters will actually reduce the physical fitness of Kryptonians. Well, wait, strictly speaking, there's another way in this world to improve my strength. Leon raised his head and glanced at the night sky reddened by the fire, suddenly enlightened. There's a yellow sun there, too. I see. Yellow solar energy improves my strength. Damn it, there's no use for it. Marvel Earth has a yellow sun. Am I here to experience sunbathing in a different world? Leon realized that the keywords he determined were not rigorous, so there were some problems with the final travel result. Next time I have to change the keyword to improve genetic potential, or have ways to become stronger besides sun exposure. Forget it. Just think of it as accumulating experience. Jarvis, there's no need to collect information on the internet. We will go back. Leon was about to leave the biochemical world directly and go home. Suddenly, an invisible wave came, sweeping across his body from top to bottom. Leon was shocked, and before he could react, he felt his brain go cold. It was as if an invisible and skillful hand came down and gave his cerebral cortex a quick beauty spa. He felt refreshed for a moment, and felt as if his brain had been slightly optimized in some aspects. This external fluctuation was completely beneficial and harmless to him, so much so that the Man of Steel did not offer any resistance. What's happening here? Questions arose in Leon's mind. Although physically, he could tell that what just happened to him was a good thing. But this inexplicable good thing made him feel wary. But fortunately, the other party did not give the gift in vain. When Leon was confused, he suddenly discovered a strange fluctuation through his ability to travel through the world. He subconsciously activated his abilities. Suddenly, a piece of obscure and unspeakable information entered his mind through resonance with the ability to travel. Leon touched his forehead. There seemed to be an invisible ghost connected to his brain waves and speaking directly to his brain. Gift, rescue, doomsday, evolution, creature, more % at, end. That piece of information is very obscure. Leon mobilized his superbrain to think tens of millions of times in 1 second, but he could only parse out 6 words. It seems that the party sending the message has no self-awareness, just tendencies or desires that originate from instinct. Shared with him. This weird setting, why is it a bit like world consciousness? Leon rubbed his chin. The world consciousness of Resident Evil is asking me for help. This seems to make sense. He first connected to the biochemical world through the ability to travel through the world and then crossed over. The biochemical world can naturally use this ability as a bridge to send communication messages to him. Although the other party seems to have only instinct and no consciousness. It's not even clear whether it is world consciousness or not. Maybe it's just a collection of human pan-consciousness. However, the other party is already given benefits after all. The gift in that message probably refers to the brain SBA just now. Leon felt very comfortable with this style of giving gifts first and then asking for help. He thought about it, although he didn't reach out to take it. But since he was so enthusiastic, he just stuffed the gift into his pocket. Well, the little guy from the biochemical world is so busy that he can consider helping out. It just so happened that he also had to study what the benefits he had gained were. But before that, I have to think carefully about what kind of favor my little brother asked me to do. After all, there are only a few ambiguous words, which is really, boom. While Leon was thinking, a violent explosion suddenly occurred on the rooftop of the building above his head. A rumble of explosions caught his attention. Chapter 56. Jill Valentine. Leon looked up. That helicopter that was just circling exploded. Amid the scattered flames, the wreckage of the plane spun and crashed into another building. After a series of impacts, the debris got stuck in the floor, ignited flames, and a large number of fragments of glass and building materials fell down. Leon felt that this scene had an inexplicable sense of deja vu, speaking of which. Resident Evil is also nicknamed the Vehicle Crisis. Almost all running vehicles that have appeared in the game have been destroyed. So it doesn't seem surprising that the plane exploded. Maybe it exploded because there were too many muscular men sitting inside and it was overwhelmed? Leon was speculating with a lot of evil in his heart. Suddenly, his ears moved, and more sounds came from the tall building. Is this sound a car? Is there a car on the roof? He looked up in surprise again. On the roof of a 7-story building, a car rushed out of the guardrail and fell straight down on top of a tall, dark body. Boom! The car hit the big black man and hit the ground hard, making a heart-shaking sound. Falling behind, the car's center of gravity was unstable and the entire body flipped over, with the roof facing downwards and hitting the ground again. At this time, the big black man who was held up was exposed, and his huge body lay on the ground without moving for a while. There was a girl in the car who kept screaming. She screamed in pain as the car hit the ground. She was repeatedly bumped against the roof and door of the car by various forces and reactions, and she screamed several times in succession. Leon felt so painful for her when he heard it. But what interested him more was that this girl's body seemed too tough. Falling from the roof of a 7-story building, after she was briefly dizzy, she started to crawl out of the car window with a groan. Of course, what's even more outrageous is the big black guy. The big black guy was knocked to the ground from the 7th floor by a car. After only a few seconds, he slowly got up and walked toward the car again. An invincible beauty like Zio Qiang. a shameless black man who was hit by a car and bombarded, but would continue to chase beautiful women. This combination is exactly the tracker-type tyrant launched by Jill Valentine in the game, and Umbrella, the mastermind behind the scenes. The so-called tyrant is a biological weapon created by Umbrella Corporation by fusing and transforming the T-virus with an adapted clone. Leon still remembered that the tyrant in front of him was also called the Goddess of Revenge. As for Jill, he is a member of a special elite police team called STARS. She is one of the first batch of police officers to have experienced a biohazard leak in the Resident Evil world. He is also one of the main characters in this world. He has a strong sense of justice and a tough character. She has neat shoulder-length short hair, and her classic image is wearing a blue vest on her upper body, known as the Beautiful Woman. Good, now I know where and when I am. The scene in front of me is exactly the scene in the game. It is now 1998, September 28th, around 21 o'clock, near the Red Rock Station in Raccoon City. Leon analyzed the time node at this time based on his memory of the game. Master Lion, you are right. It is 21:14 now, and you are less than a kilometer away from Redstone Station. Jarvis suddenly spoke. I knew it. Leon raised his eyebrows and flicked off his visor. It seems you're already connected to the internet? Yes, but you have asked me to stop collecting information on the internet before, so I don't know much about this world at the moment. Forget the previous instruction. You continue to collect information, focusing on the movements of Umbrella Company, the Eagle Military, and the HCF organization. Okay, Master. Leon didn't speak anymore. He smelled the thick smell of gunpowder smoke in the air and noticed that Jill had climbed out of the car window. However, Jill happened to see him at this time. The two looked at each other for a second, and Jill's face showed a look of urgency visible to the naked eye. Are you human? Lion wore steel armor, which was a bit ahead of his time in 1998. But as soon as Jill asked the question, she already had the answer in her heart. She waved desperately to Leon. Run. Run quickly. Don't wait, go to a safe place. It's dangerous here, she shouted loudly, not noticing that the car behind her was already on fire. The car was about to explode, and the tyrant was about to walk behind her. If she doesn't hurry up and move, then she will first be overwhelmed by the explosion, and then she will be hit by the tyrant. However, in this case, the choice she made subconsciously was to give priority to reminding the strangely dressed passerby she just saw and asking him to leave quickly. Z-boom. Sure enough, the car exploded. The flames of the explosion spread and were about to engulf Jill. Jill discovered this too. She turned around and wanted to escape, but it was too late. She could only watch as the flames spit out into her face. She was still lying on the ground at this time, her cheeks clearly feeling the blazing heat of the flames, and she couldn't help but show a look of despair. In a trance, the scene before her eyes seemed to appear 2 months ago when she and her teammates encountered zombies at a mansion on the outskirts of Raccoon City. Perhaps from the day she met these monsters, she was destined to die at their hands. Only, Jill didn't have time to finish thinking about the last words in her heart. Suddenly, there was a blur in front of my eyes. The scene in front of him instantly moved back more than 10 meters. The flames that were supposed to devour her bloomed in the distance, but instead blew up the tyrant. Her eyes blinked blankly twice, breathed a sigh of relief, and then suddenly widened again. What just happened? She looked to the side and saw the man wearing a strange iron shell standing beside her, grabbing her arm. Judging from the touch coming from the arm, the opponent seemed to be wearing a very heavy armor. But isn't the texture of this armor a little too good? The shiny blue-red shell and streamlined figure seem to be more pleasing to the eye than a space rocket. And the round light on the chest looks like a super-era mecha warrior from a science fiction movie. But how is this possible? Something like time and space. Gil suddenly thought that he had just suddenly retreated 10 meters, as if in a flash, and his expression suddenly changed. You, who are you? She looked up at the head of the armor. The man's visor closed at some point, and only 2 faint blue lights lit up. Okay, now it looks more like a mecha from a science fiction movie. I'll explain later. A male voice came from under the armor. When Jill heard this voice, she suddenly remembered. What she saw under that armor before was a male face with seemingly handsome features. Excuse me, are you? She wanted to ask something more. Suddenly, there was a loud noise from the sea of fire dozens of meters away. A sound broke through the air. The mecha warrior beside her suddenly took a step forward. A thud caught half of the thrown car body wreckage. The sea of fire in the distance now split into two. The dark tyrant walked out of the flames, his whole body burning with flames. "Oh, look at this guy. There's absolutely no warmer guy in the world than him," the mecha warrior joked. Jill was startled, looking at the tyrant in the distance covered in flames, thinking subconsciously, and actually felt that it was indeed quite warm. But she quickly realized that this was the tyrant BOW. What the hell kind of sweet man? The corner of her mouth twitched, and she stood up on the ground, side by side with the mecha warrior. "What should we do now? Can you beat that Beachy?" She said bold and dirty words as soon as she spoke. Chapter 57 Tracker, Tyrant. However, before the mecha warrior could answer, a roar came from the other side of the street. "Hey, a hole! Show me this way." Gil turned his head, following the sound, and saw a rocket flying towards the tyrant from the other side. There are still people with weapons of mass destruction. She felt in her heart that she was now stable. The rocket hit the undefended black man and exploded instantly on it. The tyrant's body stiffened in the firelight, looking seriously injured. However, a second rocket was immediately fired from the other end of the street, causing secondary damage to the tyrant. Most of the city block was illuminated by the flames of the explosion. Even the 6 meter tall, invulnerable tyrant. Under 2 consecutive rockets, he bent his knees crookedly and fell to the ground. "Are you okay?" The man who fired the rocket dropped his launcher and ran towards the two of them. He was wearing the green uniform of Umbrella's UBCS unit, and his fluffy black hair style swayed with his movements. He looks very sharp-eyed and has the tough temperament of a professional soldier. "Finally, we caught up. My name is Carlos, and I'm here to save you." He ran to the two of them. "That monster should be dead. Follow me. I'll take you to the subway station, where our Umbrella emergency response team has built a shelter and is preparing to send the survivors out of the city." Umbrella? Gil, who had just breathed a sigh of relief, suddenly became excited when he heard this. "Are you kidding me? What Raccoon City is now is because of you. Will you protect civilians?" She was filled with indignation. The cause of the biochemical crisis in Raccoon City was the leak of the virus in Umbrella's underground research institute. It was a strain called the T-virus. After infection, the patient's bone and muscle strength will be increased, but it can also cause the patient's skull to become brittle, the body to erode, and a desire to crazily eat flesh and blood and spread the virus. After the virus leaked, Umbrella simply abandoned the city and even used it as a testing ground. The reason why this city fell was not only Umbrella's fueling the flames, but also the officials' connivance. Originally, after the Eagle officials discovered the anomaly, they planned to send troops for support. But there was a guy named Simmons in the military committee who proposed to wait and see and make the virus research results into public property. So the military troops finally surrounded and failed to attack. They only restricted the access of people in Raccoon City, but did not send anyone into the city to clean up zombies. Carlos didn't know about these things. Faced with Jill's doubts, he was completely confused. "What are you talking about?" Carlo thought Gil was making a fuss. He took a few steps back. "Well, you don't have to believe me, but currently you can only take the subway if you want to leave the city. It's up to you whether you want to follow." And this guy, what is this on you?" Only then did Carlos notice that the second man next to him was actually wearing handsome steel armor. He looked like an unlucky mecha warrior actor who had just left the set of a science fiction movie when a disaster broke out. Gil also turned around and looked over. "Yes, mecha warrior, I also want to ask you." Before she finished asking her question, she was interrupted again. Boom, boom. The dull sound of a hammer hitting the ground sounded in the distance without warning. "Don't worry about me. You and I are not walking the same path." The mecha warrior took a step forward. The two looked in his direction. The tyrant who originally fell to the ground in the distance regained his mobility at some point. The flames on the opponent's body had long been extinguished, and he was slowly getting up with his hands on the ground. The dull knocking sound was the sound made by the other party's hand on the ground. Hey, it's fake. He was hit by 2 rockets, and can still move. What kind of monster is this? Carlos murmured to himself. You've never seen anything like this? Jill asked. I only know what it is looking for. It has a very clear purpose and will never give up until it reaches its goal. Carlos said, You two, it's time for us to leave. This guy can't be killed at all. But the mecha warrior suddenly smiled and said, According to you, is he a very dedicated man? Single-mindedness. The two of them were stunned by the sudden joke. The mecha warrior ignored them and reached out to take off the travel bag on his back and threw it aside. Then he actually flew up. Thank you very much. Jill and both of them were dumbfounded. This iron lump actually spurted flames from its back and feet and flew up? I thought the mecha warriors were just dressed in a sci-fi style. Who would have thought that people really have the ability to do science fiction? When Jill thought about her previous flashback, she was even more shocked. The two of them swallowed their saliva in horror, but they did not forget to run behind the bunker and poke their heads out to observe the battle between mechas and biological weapons. Fake. I feel like I've traveled through time in a movie. Jill's eyes widened. I saw the mecha warrior flying in the air, stretching out his hands towards the tyrant. As the sound of high-tech energy gathering sounded, he actually sprayed energy lasers from the palm of his hand. 2 laser beams fell on the tyrant like thunder. With just one encounter, his chest was easily penetrated. The tyrant's slow pace suddenly stopped, and his body soon burned with flames again, and his huge body collapsed. Is this solved? It shouldn't be possible to stand up again. Jill was indescribably shocked. However, her word just fell. The tyrant had 2 holes in his chest, and his tall body suddenly began to fall apart inch by inch. Its pitch-black coat of bulletproof material remains intact under rockets. But within a few breaths, the coat was completely shattered. Its body tore apart and expanded at the same time, like a self-proliferating soap bubble. In a few seconds, the 2-6-meter tall tyrant tripled in size. It became like a canine. Its hands and feet turned into sharp claws, and fin-like bone spurs protruded from its limbs and back. It was lying on the ground, breathing heavily. The rumbling breathing sound was like an old train steam engine burning coal. The tyrant is really ugly in this form. Mecha Warrior commented, The viruses and parasites in the body are completely out of control and have reached the edge of destruction. The tracker tyrant can maintain his sanity thanks to a strange parasite existing in his body. Its current appearance is the result of out-of-control parasites and crazy limb regeneration and proliferation. Although his strength has been greatly improved, his reason has also disappeared. Stop transforming and end it as soon as possible. It will make me look stupid if you're the only one transforming. The Mecha Warrior put down his hands, but the next second, small missile heads popped out from his shoulders, arms, waist, and other places. Emission. Fire all the bombs. Dozens of fires were ignited, and the small missiles drew an arc and approached the second-form tyrant. The tyrant had a premonition of danger. He kicked off the ground with his powerful legs, jumped to the wall like a praying mantis, and firmly anchored himself. It attempts to use its high mobility to avoid danger. But the missiles fired from the Mecha Warriors have their own tracking effect. Small missiles turned in the air and chased after the tyrant. This was the first time for Jill to see the tyrant running away with his head in his arms, and even then he could not escape successfully. Boom! First, the first missile hit the tyrant. Then came all the remaining small missiles. Explosions followed one after another, although the noise is not louder than when a rocket explodes. But every small missile seemed to hit the tyrant's vitals, causing its body to be severely damaged and causing it to stagger and roar. When the last small missile exploded, the tyrant's body was only left with charred joints, leaning lifelessly against the wall without any movement. This time, he should be really dead. Gil looked at the dead tyrant and then at the Mecha Warriors in the air with wonder in his eyes. This is simply a mobile arsenal. It's so cool. When Gil was training in the army, he was most outstanding in his explosive ability. At this moment, she only felt that the Mecha Warrior in the sky was so handsome, it was almost shining. Chapter 58, Interpretation of Help-Seeking Information. Leon floated in the air, looking at the tyrant with only bones left on the ground. He also felt that the other party should be completely dead this time. The vitality is indeed very tenacious. Oh, T-virus. Is it another direction of the evolution of life? He turned to thinking about the recourse the world consciousness had made to him. The world of Resident Evil takes a completely different path from him in terms of extraordinary power. Kryptonians attribute their power to themselves, and all their power comes from their own cells and blood, and of course, yellow sunlight. Biohazard uses biochemical power to increase one's body. Follow the game plot. Basically, it can be divided into 3 categories: viruses, parasites, and fungi. Each of the 3 major categories has its own origin. Among them, virus technology has flourished the most. Its origins are interesting. In ancient times, a flower called the sun staircase was born in Africa, which gave birth to a splendid civilization there. But later this civilization was lost in history. By the 1960s, the founders of Umbrella are Spencer, Marcus, and Edward. The plant was again found in Africa. They come from this sun staircase flower. A strain named progenitor virus was extracted. More than 10 years later, Marcus successfully combined the progenitor virus with leeches to develop the T-virus. During this period, Edward's son Alexander set up a base in Antarctica, used the genes of his ancestors to cultivate 2 descendants, and developed the T. veronica virus there. Marcus's student and Spencer's informant, William Birkin, developed a variant of the T virus called the G virus in an underground laboratory in Raccoon City. These 3 viruses are the main strains in the early stages of the Resident Evil game world. There are other T-fear virus, T-abyss virus, C virus. They have not been developed yet. Apart from viruses, the rest are parasites and fungi. These 2 evolutionary pathways have much fewer branches. In terms of parasites, the main one is a parasite called placa. It appeared underground hundreds of years ago in the mountains of Spain's Tooth Valley and is an ancient parasite. Unlike viruses, it can strengthen the host while also allowing the host to retain some of its sanity. Therefore, many forces later used placa parasites to control biological weapons. As for the fungus, it is a kind of mold that originates from the underground of a village in Eastern Europe and has a dark appearance. This mold first appeared hundreds of years ago. It can store the genes, consciousness, and memory of many living things. Even when many molds came together, a large, baby-shaped mold called the fungus master was born. This big mold can link all the memories and consciousness stored in the hyphae, like a network relay. And some of the small molds it produces are named E-molds, or gifts. Human beings infected by E-mold will not only greatly improve their physical fitness, but also retain relatively complete rationality. However, their consciousness is connected to the fungus owner and will be restricted and dominated by higher-level infected people. Ethan, the protagonist of the 7th and 8th generations of the game, and his daughter Rose are the type of people who perfectly integrate E-mold. However, Rose was born more than 20 years later, and it was still too far away from the current time. Leon sorted out the general situation of the biohazard world in his mind. In my mind, I had some idea of the world's request for help. Gift, rescue, doomsday, evolution, creature, more percent at, and gift naturally refers to the invisible reinforcement he received. Salvation, doomsday should be the literal meaning. There have been several annihilation crises in the Resident Evil world, but they were all successfully overcome in the original work. The biggest crisis was probably the chaos that carried the C virus in the 6th generation of the game and could infect the world. The creature named Chaos has average strength, but the virus it carries can infect the entire ocean and then the whole world in a short period of time. Of course, that has nothing to do with Lion. After all, it is very simple for him to solve these crises now. Just kill all the people who cause trouble in advance. But Leon was a little confused about this. If the so-called doomsday refers to various biological crises, then it should not be the consciousness of the world that seeks help from him. After all, even if all humans and other living things die, the Earth can still continue to revolve around the sun safely. However, it seems that it cannot be concluded immediately. What if the Resident Evil world is the same as parts of the Marvel world. There are rules similar to spider web incident. That is, once some important figures die or do not die, the world will have a chain reaction and be destroyed. Then he can understand the motivation of world consciousness to ask for help. After all, according to this theory, if humans perish, the world will also end. But Leon felt that the real reason shouldn't be so weird. He pressed the question temporarily and continued his analysis. The remaining entries. Evolution, biology, it's not difficult to understand. Probably asking him to help promote global biological evolution. This fits well with the Resident Evil theme. He used a sigh when playing games. It is said that all weird things can be brewed in Resident Evil. It's a virus and it's a mold. There is simply no way for people to survive. But now the game has become real, and the world may still have instinctive consciousness. Everything has another explanation. In order to promote biological evolution, the world has actively created these dangerous but highly potential species. Various viruses, molds, and parasites can fuse and mutate with each other, which is very consistent with the goals of evolution. Perhaps the two words, evolution, biology, are what the world mainly wants him to help. As for the last more, Leon couldn't quite understand it. He closed his eyes and tried to experience the emotions shared by the world's consciousness. Slowly, he discovered that there is information about more in this section. They all carry a mixture of encouragement, expectation, and impatience. He thought about it. I think this is probably the consciousness of the world telling him that after he completes his request for help, it will give him more feedback. Well, even the world's consciousness knows how to make a big deal these days. Leon tapped the metal visor with his fingers. But since there will be follow-up feedback, I will be more serious. Although I still don't know what the gift I got before is. But the superbrain had a vague intuition. That gift was of great use to him. First of all, as the first step to saving the world, let's practice solving the crisis in Raccoon City. He stopped the armor's propulsion system and landed on the ground. In the original work, there is T-virus serum in the hospital. I can use that serum to try to reversely derive an antidote with wider applicability. There is also Umbrella's underground laboratory. The G-virus there cannot be let go. It is needed to promote biological evolution. Leon was thinking. His armor was lightly knocked. Hello. Gil walked to his left and stared intently at the arc reactor on the chest of the armor. You're really surprised that such a tight armor can contain so many weapons. I haven't introduced you yet, but I am Jill Valentine, a member of STARS. Can I ask, who are you? Are you a classified combatant from the military? Carlos also came over. Wow, brother. You were so handsome just now. Even after the black guy turned into a BCH, you killed him instantly. Chapter 59, Three-Stage Tyrant, Leon Stark. Leon nodded slightly to the two of them and introduced himself. You'd better get out of here quickly. The zombies will come over when they hear the noise. Why don't you go to the subway station together? Ah, I understand, Brother Stark. You are the person sent by above to solve the problem, right? Carlos couldn't help but touch the armor. I didn't know this country's technology was so powerful. Those people hide it so deeply. Jill seemed to think so. She looked at Leon much more kindly, as if she was seeing her comrade in arms. She stretched out her hand. I was in the Delta Force. Which force are you from, Leon? Leon shook her arm with his armor-wrapped arm. You have misunderstood, he said. I am not from your country, nor am I from your world. World? Are you saying that we are not of the same class as you? Jill frowned slightly. Literally, I'm from another world. Leon let go of his hand. I'm not here to wipe umbrellas, but it was the consciousness of your world that hired me. It lets me help save the world. So you should leave as soon as possible and gather as many civilians as possible. I may even send you some T-virus vaccines later. After saying that, he turned around, found the direction of Raccoon City Hospital, and prepared to fly there. Carlos smiled and shouted from behind. Hey, Brother Leon, are you kidding, right? How is this possible in another world? Do you have any evidence? Although this handsome instant noodle guy has some funny attributes, but he is also past the age where he would believe in passionate stories about saviors from another world. He felt that the mecha warrior in front of him might have suffered from PTSD during the war and was mentally abnormal. The person hired by the world consciousness means the savior? Jill's eyes also became weird. She thought about the teleportation just now and felt a little shaken, but quickly denied it. A savior from another world. How is this possible? She thought about it and felt that Leon was probably joking to keep it secret. At this time, Leon flew straight up. However, he did not turn on the thruster on the armor. He hadn't used the armor for a long time, and he had been thinking about a lot of things just now. For a moment, he even forgot to turn on the thruster and used the biological force field to fly out of habit. So the iron shell weighing several tons flew lightly in the air, and Lion's voice came out as if it had been muffled by a can. I don't have to prove it, Carlos. You don't need to believe me, and I don't need you to believe it. Just do what you were doing before. This may save a few more people. Leon looked around in the air. Also, you should go. There are zombies surrounding you. Jill and the other two didn't notice that the steel armor had opened up the board of Newton's coffin and floated there out of thin air. They looked around, and sure enough, there were batches of zombies limping towards the corners of the streets. We have to go. Gil's face became solemn, and he didn't forget to ask Leon, what about you? Where are you going? Maybe we can help you later. I'm going to Raccoon City Hospital and the police station. The underground of the police station leads to the Umbrella Laboratory. If you need serum, you can go to me there. Leon said. He felt that plot characters like Gil and Carlos, it should be quite important to Party A's boss's world awareness. So he doesn't mind offering some help. Umbrella's laboratory? Gil still wanted to ask. Leon suddenly stretched out his hand to stop. Wait a minute. His ears twitched. There are a lot of things crawling nearby. Well, it sounds like the sound of wireworms climbing. Ironworms? Aren't they parasites? Why do they make a sound when they crawl? Both Jill and Jill's heads were filled with questions. Should we take him with us? His mental state seems to be worrying. If he is alone, he may have an accident. Carlos whispered. But Leon seems to be quite sober. Gil and Carlos thought differently. She felt that Leon was probably talking about some secret code just now. Professional special operations personnel all have secret codes. It's a pity that neither she nor the umbrella guy next to her are Lion's informants. The voice is there. Leon suddenly turned around in the air and looked at the location of the tyrant's remains. The dry bones there had turned into a bulging black substance. Countless black silk threads, less than 1 millimeter thick, extending from that mass of material, covering the ground, crawling towards the zombies in the distance. This process makes no sound at all, just like rainwater flowing over the city ground. Are there really wireworms? Carlos exclaimed. Wasn't that a code just now? Jill exclaimed. This tyrant is still alive. Lion judged. Huh? Leon raised his eyebrows. Why did Gil and Carlos speak so strangely? The brain circuits of these plot characters are just different from normal people. Obviously, the point is that the tyrant is still alive. It turned out that one of the two people was paying attention to the ironworms, and the other was thinking about some random code. It's really strange. I'm afraid I may have suffered mental problems from fighting too much. Leon remembered that in the game, Jill had just experienced a biochemical leak 2 months ago. At this time, she still has a shadow in her heart, and she will not be able to sleep all day long. So there's indeed something wrong with the spirit. Tyrant. Jill and Jill woke up from a dream. Their expressions suddenly changed. Is it still alive? Puff puff. When the two were surprised, continuous falling sounds suddenly came from all sides of the street. They looked over and saw that the approaching zombies fell down in pieces. Groups of black silk threads wrapped them up, and then they are quickly absorbed and digested. Damn it, it's absorbing other zombies. Stop it. Gil quickly took out his gun and shot. However, the firepower of the pistol was negligible at this time. Carlos also fired, but to no avail. Leon watched this scene from the air, but did not join the two men's attack. He felt a little strange. Did the tracker tyrant in the game have such strong vitality? Okay, he can't figure it out either. After all, he always used the plug-in Phonling Yueying when playing games. No matter how strong the boss is, he will die in one shot. Let me see how many stages you can transform into, just like Frisia. Leon crossed his arms in the air. The tyrant absorbs zombies very quickly. Less than a minute, the dark mass suddenly grew to 8 meters long and 3 meters high. The huge body resembles a leech. It occupies most of the street, blocking the path that Jill and the two must pass through. What the hell is this? Gil gritted his teeth. Leon, is there anything else you can do? At this point, she can only hope that the mecha warrior with the strongest painting style among the 3 people present can perform miracles. She thought to herself, Leon is so mysterious, although he can talk about himself as the savior of another world. But maybe he really has a way to deal with the terrifying creature in front of him. Stand back and let me come. Leon's voice came from behind, sounding so calm and confident. At this moment, Jill suddenly felt extremely relieved. She thought of the general she saw during army training, and one word came to her mind: the style of a general. Is it possible that Lion is a senior general in the army? Jill looked back with doubts and saw an unforgettable scene in her life. Chapter 60 Ruz to the ground. Jarvis, take off your armor. Gil heard Leon's voice coming from inside the mecha. Yes, master. A second voice seemed to appear in the mecha, and Jill thought he was hallucinating. However, after the second voice fell, the mecha's propeller suddenly spurted out flames. Then the iron scales opened one after another, revealing the man hiding inside. Jill's head went blank when the propeller started spitting fire. She suddenly realized, just now, this mecha was floating as if there was no gravity at all. No propulsion device is used at all. It's just like a ghost. Jill felt creepy, and a chill instantly ran down her spine and into her mind. But the coolness was quickly replaced by horror. Leon's visor popped open, revealing a face with a high nose and thick eyebrows. His hair is scattered, and each strand is clear lines. The temperament has the laziness of the afternoon sun. The first thought that came to Jill's mind was that this man could be a Greek statue somewhere that came to life. It's just that Leon's clothes are very casual. The upper body is a rock gray knitted wool sweater. The lower body is khaki cargo shorts, and half of the legs are exposed wearing a pair of coffee-colored hiking shoes. Now he doesn't look like the serious, muscular statue. It's more like a student who yawns and goes out to buy breakfast early in the morning during summer vacation. If everything ends here, Gil would also think that the handsome man in front of him was a somewhat unremarkable elite warrior. But after the mecha was opened, the man named Leon actually flew straight up. Both Gil and Carlos were so horrified that they opened their mouths and cursed a generous thank you, with expressions as if they had seen God. They watched Leon fly into the air. His lazy temperament became sharp, and his black pupils danced with scarlet light. The mecha closed on its own and floated to the side, spraying flames. I originally wanted to get along with you as an ordinary person, but the tyrant is resurrected again and again. Now that things have come to an end, I've shown my cards. Actually, the armor is just my seal. Leon folded his arms and floated in the air, wearing loose shorts that reached his knees, showing a scornful air. In front of him, the giant leech that had expanded to 10 meters away suddenly exploded, shooting out countless thick and long tentacles. Those tentacles cut into each building, covering the building and dyeing it with its color as if they could reproduce infinitely. In the center of the tentacle, the original upper half of the tyrant's body was preserved. But now it has become huge again, standing like a small building in the middle of the street. Now it has no legs, only a pair of sharp claws nearly 10 meters long, and its head has become like a leech covered with sharp teeth. Tyrant has officially entered its third phase. It was killed twice, and all its hatred was directed at Leon. As soon as it developed its body, it stretched its neck forward and let out a sky-shattering roar toward Lion. A strong wind spewed out from its mouth and swept across the street, causing the cars to sway and shake. Leon frowned as the strong wind blew towards his face. He had no intention of breathing in the bad breath of a tyrant. His figure suddenly moved sideways and appeared below the tyrant. "Shut up!" Leon roared in the air, breaking the sound barrier in an instant, and punched the tyrant on the head from bottom to top. The punch seemed like an understatement. But the tyrant finally regenerated his head again. But he couldn't even hold on to a face-to-face meeting. It instantly shattered into countless fragments like a balloon exploding. Even its body is not immune. Leon wrapped the tyrant with a biological force field, causing his entire body to receive force at the same time. So with one punch, be it the body of the tyrant or the building that is fixed by the tyrant's tentacles, they all rise from the ground, reflected back into the sky. A large swath of black biological tissue, along with a group of high-rise buildings and roads, flew through the air at the speed of sound. Leon didn't pause, then chased after him and punched again. Boom! Earth-shattering power exploded in the air. It was as if a meteorite fell from the sky. All buildings, the tyrant's body, and zombies were shattered into countless pieces of debris in an instant. Gil and Carlos on the ground felt as if they had lost a memory, because they just blinked. No, they didn't even blink. As a result, all the surrounding buildings within a dozen meters broke through the sound barrier and flew into the air. Looking around again, there was only a bare, dry ground. Large areas of asphalt and cement on the ground have also disappeared, revealing the deep underground sewers. At this moment, the two of them were at a loss. They find that they no longer seem to recognize the world they were once familiar with. Gil stared blankly at Leon, who turned into a small dot in the sky. There was no thought at all in my heart, and all my brain capacity was used to feel shocked. Brush. There was no sound, and Leon, who was as far away as a small dot, suddenly appeared in front of the two of them the next moment. I'm sorry. Seeing how powerful and biologically beautiful the tyrant's body is, I accidentally used too much force. The big boy in loose shorts laughed and waved at the two of them. Although it caused some damage to the city, the residents here have long since become zombies, so it doesn't matter. Let's separate here. Goodbye, Gil and Carlos. Remember to gather the civilians. After saying that, Leon flew up again and waved to the armor on the side. Let's go, Jarvis. Let's go to Raccoon City Hospital. Master Leon, do you need me to put on your armor for you? Why should I wear armor? I used to wear it because I was worried about encountering kryptonite and red sun, but there is nothing in this world that can hurt me, so I don't need to wear it. Okay, Master. Let's go. Take the bag Tony gave us and follow us. When Leon finished speaking, the person had disappeared from where he was. With his current strength, he can accelerate to Mach 100 in 1 second. And as long as he is willing, the noise caused by high-speed movement under the cover of the biological force field can even be smaller than the sound of the natural wind in the city. Before Gil and Carlos could even turn their heads from Leon's words, they had already lost sight of the figure. There was only the distant wind blowing in place, blowing up a thin layer of yellow sand on the ground. He just left like that. Carlos was dumbfounded. Okay, it seems so. Jill wasn't much better. He really is the savior. He must be. I don't know, probably. He just said he was going to the Raccoon City Police Department. It seems right. Then what should we do now? Are we still going to the subway station? Carlos rubbed his cheek vigorously. Go. Jill looked back. She looked serious. Leon just told us to rescue civilians. I have to follow you to the subway station and keep an eye on you umbrella people. Her mind was still replaying the scene just now, although she didn't see anything clearly about the details of Leon's action. But the figure wearing overalls and shorts kept popping up in her mind. In comparison, other things seemed to be insignificant. While the two were talking, debris fell from the sky like a gray rain. Chapter 61 Hospital Raccoon City is a city developed by Umbrella Corporation, back when it was a small Midwestern town. Umbrella comes here. As a result, hospitals, subways, universities, many modern buildings gradually appeared. Every building and every wall in this city has something to do with Umbrella. Walking on the streets of this city, anyone you pass by inadvertently may be an Umbrella employee. When Leon came to Raccoon City Hospital, I happened to hear the confession of an Umbrella researcher. My name is Nathaniel Bard, and the current time is 21:35 on September 28th. I am the director of the Virus Research Center. I wish someone could come and get me out, but I'm afraid there's little hope. They wouldn't want me to live. Umbrella, those guys will definitely kill me. The biological crisis in Raccoon City this time was caused by them. I hope what I say next can be spread through the video and save more people. At least my reputation will not be too bad. Umbrella Corporation, my employer, ordered me and my team to participate in the research of a biochemical weapon called the T-virus. Now buying cakes from Europe. What was that sound just now? I'll record it again later. Now I have to go see what's making the noise outside. It turns out that director Nathaniel Bard was recording a video. This video is the suicide note he prepared for himself. Leon listened to the various sounds coming from his ears, floating outside the hospital. He scanned the building with his supervision. Now the hospital has been occupied by infected organisms. The only living person is the director of the Virus Research Center, who just confessed. But this guy is not far from death. Lion's impression: in a few hours, the director will be killed by people sent by Umbrella, and the original T-virus liquid will be taken away. But now he was lucky and met Leon, who came here. Leon landed, and the Super Mark I controlled by Jarvis arrived belatedly, silently following behind and landing together. Open the hospital door. Several zombies with bloody appearance turn around. They were all in uniform and were either doctors, nurses, or security personnel. Deal with them, Jarvis. Leon walked towards the location of the research director. Just leave the infected people outside to Jarvis. Research Director Bud is a middle-aged man wearing a white coat with a half-bald head and a serious face. He was in his research room, separated from the hospital lobby by a heavy iron door. At this time, a lizard-like monster was hammering outside the iron door, its mouth wide open and its roaring like thunder. Apparently, it was attracted by Director Bard's voice. On the other side of the door, Director Bard, who knew he had made a mistake, was sweating profusely and covering his mouth, shaking like chaff. He probably wanted to keep quiet and hold on for a while, waiting for the lizard monster to change its target. Talk about it. Leon also knows that monster. Predator, Umbrella's biological weapon, was airdropped into Raccoon City for testing. It is considered a mini-boss in the game, so Lion gave it a face. Punch behind it, a majestic burst of power. Hunter and the iron door were blasted to the wall of the room, embedded in it like a pancake. Director Bard was startled by the explosion-like movement in the room and collapsed directly on the ground. His expression was horrified. The scene of the iron door being blasted into the wall reminds him of one of Umbrella's biological weapons called Tyrant. Now, Umbrella has used Tyrant to kill him, and he really can't escape death. Director Bader's lips trembled. After thinking clearly that he was bound to die, he climbed onto the chair, tremblingly. He slid the mouse with trembling fingers and clicked on the video recording again, intending to use the last moment to record the unfinished confession. However, before he could say the first words, Leon walked in. Director Bud? Leon asked. Who are you? Director Bader looked confused. Why are you not a tyrant? I'm looking for T-virus stock solution and vaccine samples. It would be better if, Director, you could give me relevant research information. Leon noticed Director Bard's quickly alert look, and his tone changed. Don't think too much. I'm not from Umbrella. I'm just looking for viruses and vaccines to save the city. Save the city? Director Bader became much bolder when facing humans. After all, he felt that the most he could do was die. The fear in one's heart is completely different between dying in the hands of humans and dying in the hands of Tyrant. He half squinted his eyes. How do you know there are viruses and vaccines here? No one except Umbrella can know about it. Leon thought for a while and then confessed directly. I'm not from this world. I am here because your world consciousness asked me for help. All information comes from it. Lion puts the blame on world consciousness. He is outspoken in order to improve the efficiency of communication and trust. After all, in this world, as long as he doesn't seek death, nothing will happen to him. Rather than go to great lengths to fabricate a Wei Guangjing identity, it would be better to tell the most incredible truth directly. To some extent, as long as he shows his strength. The most unbelievable truth will immediately become the most unbelievable fact. After finishing speaking, Leon didn't care what Director Bard's expression was. He puffed up a breath in his chest and blew it out sharply. Suddenly a breath flew like a sharp arrow, blasting a flat, round hole in the opposite wall. Amidst the flying dust, Director Bard's eyes almost popped out. When he looked at Leon again, his rational eyes, which always advocated science, had become a little more fanatical. It's unbelievable. The breath exhaled from the mouth can actually destroy the wall. The power required is impossible for the human body. Are you really from a different world? Excuse me, what is the other world like? There is also world consciousness. Is our world originally conscious? I knew it, ha. Director Bud muttered at first, then began to ask boldly, and finally laughed. Leon was a little stunned. He thought that Director Bard would continue to question or maybe be dubious. But I didn't expect that the other party would laugh like a hysterical person. But it's understandable. It seems that some scholars who love scientific research will become crazy and nagging when they encounter the ultimate problem in their field. What's more, what Director Bard encountered at this time was another world and world consciousness, an area that is almost impossible for humans to touch. He was very restrained in not going crazy on the spot. Snapped. Leon slapped Director Bard on the shoulder. We will discuss these issues later. Now, can you show me your scientific
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.